All right.
Let's go.
Ali, it is a pleasure to have you here. I've been very excited to chat with you for a long time. Um, to start with, I don't even know how do you pronounce your last name? I'm not sure if I got that right.
I always say the common pronunciation.
Okay.
That's a joke.
Yeah, exactly. I was about to say, come on,
Yeah, I know.
man.
I always get that stare from people, or I do the opposite. Where
Yeah.
I say my last name, and
Right.
they're like, "How do you spell that?" I'm like, "The common spelling."
Yeah,
And
exactly.
I just give them a look, and they're like,
Pause.
"No, it's a joke." It's in Farsi. It's Iranian last name.
Okay.
It's pronounced Chehrehsaz.
Chehrehsaz.
So it's kind of hard to imagine those sounding words like Chehrehsaz.
Chehrehsaz.
But so when I introduce myself, I go by Ali Chehrehsaz, so people understand it's like
Got it.
they see the H's. There's 3 H's in my last name, which is
Gringo eyes for the Americans.
I mean, you gotta try to make it visual, right?
Exactly.
Okay, Ali is fine.
Ali, right. Well, anyways, so I'm really excited to have this conversation for a couple of reasons. I've mentioned on PBJ and on other shows from Ideas from the Edge that in my, I come from the energy world, as do you, and then I got into Bitcoin. And in my early days investing in another fund, I met the first other Bitcoin solar maxi, Andrew Myers from Satoshi Energy.
Yeah.
And I was like, holy shit, I can't believe another one of me exists. Someone else actually believes this stuff. And I was like, okay, well, there's 2 of us in the whole world. And then I met you and I was like, okay, there's 3. So you were the only other full on solar Bitcoin maxi. I think still since then, maybe Gideon Powell and a few others since then. But it's a small community. It's growing, but that was really exciting for me to find you. Yeah. And I mean, for folks who don't know you, would love to hear just a little bit about your background. I know you're solar first and foremost. Somehow you got orange pill. I don't even know why you're so into Bitcoin.
Yeah.
Tell us about that.
I will. And actually, I do want to come back to the term maxi at some point, and maybe in the intro.
Spicy.
Not that I take any offense to it or there's anything wrong with it. But I do think about there's maxi, then there is purity, and then there's focus. There's different logos, and
I just mean the cult.
You can. I mean, we are in the tribe, right? So from inside, you are a tribe. From the outside, people see us as a cult.
Right.
But yeah, my story is I'm an engineer by training. Been working in the energy space for almost 2 decades now.
Right.
First few years, I was in Canadian oil sands, and I transitioned to solar.
Mm-hmm.
I've been working at my current company, which I co-founded 15 years ago, TerraVerde Energy, based here in San Francisco, working on solar. And solar is really just a tag catch-all for all things distributed generation,
right.
Self-generation for self-consumption.
Mm-hmm.
The journey of solar, I think, is still young, and we're still in early days, and it has a long ways to go, and it has already evolved so much in the last 15 years.
Totally.
And it needs to evolve a lot more for it to get to where it should take us.
And why did you make that jump from oil sands to solar originally?
There's a few reasons. One was, I guess I was a seeker looking for, where I can make the dent in the universe. I guess some of us are born with this knack of wanting to go make a change. I don't know why. Don't ask me. But I remember very early on in my career working in oil sands, which I enjoyed and I loved. It was a great job, great company, big projects, international presence. You're in the world markets because you can't build a refinery without steel from everywhere. Oil as a commodity that's global, and geopolitics gets involved. You're really in it. You quickly get into an industry where you're like, holy shit, I'm actually looking at the world from the world view, because that's what it takes. But it was also an industry that at least the mining and oil sands side have been around 67 years, doing well. From an engineer point of view, I thought to myself, if I spend the next 4 decades of my life working here, I can make incremental improvements.
Right.
But renewables had captured my imagination as this new fledgling thing that seems to be picking up, and maybe the timing is right.
Yep.
It had made a splash, in the 70s or so, went away, came back around. Maybe the climate move, brought it to attention as well. But I thought, if there's something new starting here, I can go and take a shot at it and see where that goes.
Yeah.
That was one part of it. Another part of it was I worked for a giant energy company in Canada that merged with the other bigger company in Canada to form the biggest energy company. And
love when that happens.
Yes.
Just keep getting bigger.
And, I was going through a process of, I'm now, going through this like career ladder. It was very clear too. And there's nothing wrong with career ladders to see where you are, where you can go and put your time in. But I remember there was this notion of, if you want to get to go to the next level, to like lead a project or whatever, you have to go do your 2 years of duty in Fort McMurray.
Where's that?
And that's like up north, tundra.
Oh.
Go on site, go work there, which is totally fine. I mean, you get to gain a lot of experience, but it was very predetermined.
Yeah.
Everybody has to go through this. It's
boring.
like military service. You have to go through this in order to get your next thing.
Yeah.
And I remember I was like, well, when you're in the big company, established industry, you kind of have to go through these processes. And I was like, I think I'd like to go do something that's more entrepreneurial. And I had my company had moved me from Canada to Houston. I was in Calgary. They moved me to Houston for an assignment, and I caught the entrepreneurship, the hustle of Houston. I know in Bay Area, San Francisco is insane. This is what everybody does by the look of it. But compared to Calgary, Houston has like a entrepreneurship scene and a hustle. And I met people that are starting companies, are doing things from the ground.
And they're cowboys down there.
Huge. I mean, I know Enron has a bad name, but there's a lot of ex-Enron people that I met that had done a lot of great work and creative, and sometimes creative stuff gets you in trouble. There's an angle of that, but there's a creativity.
We're going to be talking about that a lot today, actually. It's a thin line.
It's a thin line, yeah. But there was that entrepreneurship, go build something, start something new, start the next chapter, take the risk when you can. I was, a stupid 20-something-year-old. So I did. I took the chance, and I was looking at wind and solar and doing my research, educating myself. I met an individual at a networking event named Tony D'Orazio. He was formerly at, I think, Shell Wind. He had just gone to join a company called Tessera Solar. I went and introduced myself, and I said, this is who I am. Here's what I'm seeking. And shook hands, sent him a resume, and that's how I got into this solar startup, because he had just joined a company there, and he gave me a shot, and the rest is history. That's how I got into solar and fell in love with it, and went through the late 2000s journey of is silicon, PV solar gonna win, or solar thermal gonna win? Is the US gonna dominate, or China gonna dominate? And the story goes, it was all
PV in China.
PV in China, all right? Like their over-investment in it, which looking back makes a lot of sense. At the time, we're like, holy shit, how were they thinking that far ahead? Or were we just taking the chance? Who knows? But because of that journey, the company I was with, because it was betting on a different technology, closed down. We converted all the jobs to solar PV, did another cycle there of learning. And at the time, I was working on large scale solar, like gigawatt scale developments. Go put 3 gigawatts of solar in deserts of California, sell the power to SCE, that kind of stuff, which was awesome. Learned a lot.
SCE?
Southern California. Sorry, you got to call me out on acronyms.
Yeah, I'm good at it. Don't worry.
And then through that process, I also educated myself a bit more around okay, what's solar? How can it be more useful? And somebody shared with me this notion of, if you create a Venn diagram of where the sun shines and where people live, it's pretty much a circle. Meaning you can produce solar and use it on site. You don't need to go way out in the middle of the desert to produce the power. Nothing wrong with it. I'm sure people have opinions about it. But looking at solar as a building integrated technology, something you put on a rooftop or in a parking lot or on land that you don't otherwise need nearby a load center, made a lot of sense. At the time, we called that distributed generation. And that was the next bet I took, that I think I should go look into DG solar. And that led me to meeting a couple of co-founders based here in San Francisco. And they were launching a business to go figure out how to do distributed generation focused in California for public agencies. And I took another bet to say, hey, let's go to San Francisco, figure out what we can do there. It might last a year and then it will fizzle out and then we'll see. But a year has turned into 15 now.
That's awesome, man.
That has been a very educational journey. It's been great to grow with the company, grow as a leader, grow as a person. And I feel very blessed and lucky to be part of an industry that still has so much to go. And
just to be clear, I thought TerraVerde, that's your company. I thought you guys did larger scale solar development as well. Or what do you consider DG versus?
So for us, DG is anything sub 5 megawatt.
Got it. Okay.
Of course, we have customers that are big public agencies.
Yeah.
And they can afford to do, they have enough load to do like multiple 5 megawatts. So it like adds up to look bigger. But broadly up and down the spectrum, how the solution set has transpired is essentially solar layered in with battery and other flexible loads that can help offset consumption of a facility.
Yep.
And that might be a school, that might be a wastewater plant, that might be a city government facility, or a commercial building facility of some sort. So it ends up covering that whole spectrum.
Yeah.
We stay away out of the utility scale type of space. That's a whole other business and activity. We support developments in those areas through my other businesses and ventures.
Right.
But my company TerraVerde is solely focused on self-generation for self-consumption.
So sub 5 megawatt.
Sub 5 megawatt, yeah.
Cool, makes sense.
Yeah.
Okay, a lot of things I want to get into with you, but let's start with solar, just going a little deeper on this. And actually, I don't know, when did you move to San Francisco? Was that?
End of 2010.
Okay, so I was going to say, I actually did a brief stint in Houston. You didn't know this.
Oh, yeah. No.
When I graduated from school, this would have been like 2013. So we just missed each other. I was in Montrose for just a bit.
Okay.
When my buddy and I, we were trying to do, originally we were looking at doing crowdfunding for energy efficiency. Do you remember Solar Mosaic and that sort of model? Something similar. Yeah. Quickly realized that was a clusterfuck for us. We were definitely the wrong founders. But then we started working on a solar social network. I don't even know if you know this.
No.
And actually, I think now is the time to bring it back on Nostr, because now we can, because the issue is we wanted to build it on top of Facebook.
Okay.
But they're actually, maybe this is something for you guys, on top of their social graph. And at the time, we actually talked to one of the guys who was like, this guy, Bill, who was like leading all of their like clean energy stuff. And he thought it was a super cool idea. And, we were, developing, and then they shut off the API. But the idea is basically, there was like some studies coming out of Austin, UT Austin, basically showing it's not rocket science, but if your neighbors get solar, you're more likely to get solar. Because like now you have someone that can tell you about it. It's like, holy shit, you're saving this much money. It was an easy process. They didn't drill holes in your roof.
The network effect is huge.
The network effect. That's exactly what it is. Network effect. And so we thought, oh, this would be cool. We can build this like graph where you can see other people that that have solar, ask them questions, and they can basically get lead gen fees or like fees from closing the sale. Still think it's a great idea. I want to bring it back. But
we need
permission.
We need all ideas that can help us cut the customer acquisition costs.
Oh, yeah.
Like
it's still so high.
It is ridiculously high. We have all the wrong incentives.
Yeah.
It's set up. And it's hurting us.
Yeah. Well, at least the DG level. And I saw a report from Tesla recently. I didn't realize how high it was. And that's why I started thinking maybe we should bring it back.
Yeah.
But anyways, my big question to you is, what got me, I shared a lot of your sort of seeker ethos, still do, that originally got me in energy in the first place. But solar, around that time, I originally got fully solar pilled by Ramez Nam, if you know him.
Okay.
And he put out some of those charts that basically showed just the learning curves, right? Yeah. And so every doubling of cumulative capacity, he was projecting that the levelized cost of electricity for solar was falling 20%. Yeah. When he relooked at those numbers 10 years later or whatever it was in the early 2020s, turns out it was like 40%.
Yeah.
And so I started, following these curves. And when we went down to Mexico to start Bright, what we were literally looking for is, okay, where do you cross the point where, self-generation basically becomes cheaper than grid electricity. Yeah. So I was following that for solar, and then, batteries were the missing piece. And I've been following, lithium ion batteries have had that 25% learning curve. Yeah. And it seems like we're finally crossing that tipping point where solar plus storage is the cheapest thing in the world. Two questions for you. One, is that true in your base experience? In most places of the world, can solar plus storage disrupt all other existing forms of electricity? And two, whether we're there yet or not, it's close. Why has it taken so long for the world to see these trends? You saw them 15 years ago. Yeah. Like, why was that such a secret?
So to answer your first question, is it true for the most of the world? So you're asking the physics and then the geography question. I can tell you it's true in California.
Yep.
And it is very much a geographic-based question.
Yep.
For two reasons. Resource availability, so solar irradiance, and two, power market rules.
Right.
The reason why it makes sense in California is that we have the sun, we have the resource.
Right.
And our power markets are set up in a regulated market that the way electricity is costed out to retail customers, it is a lot more than the rest of the country. You look at the map of the 50 states, and it's color coded by intensity of electricity cost. I think I showed it here at our last presentation.
Yeah.
California stands out.
Right.
Very bright. And you can see the cost, next door, Nevada is not anywhere near California.
California always wins.
The
God's country, right here.
That geographic line has nothing to do with electrons or with solar availability. That all has to do with the retail pricing of electricity.
Right.
So we are in a position in California that solar plus battery, self-generation, it has been cheaper than the grid for quite some time. What's interesting, and that was our bet from way back when, that if you do solar now, and back then we didn't have batteries on our radar because it wasn't a thing. Like batteries came into effect after hurricane, it was the hurricane in the East Coast, 2012,
Sandy.
2013. I think Sandy, that like people started to think about batteries for backup power because the grid went out. But back then it was just solar, and the bet really was, look, we can get solar now. It's a fixed cost, hedge against utility inflation of 3 to 5%, and over 20 years you win. It's a very modest bet. Now you go from pre-COVID to this time, you've had double-digit rate growth in California.
Wow.
You do a CAGR of that over 6-7 years, you get to pretty much double your cost. And it's been like, frog in a boiling pot kind of thing. Like people are all of a sudden waking up like, shit, we are dying. Like our utility cost is now double what it was.
I got, just as a data point, I didn't even track that closely in my own apartment because, I left for 5 years and I was in Mexico. And, whatever, my utility bills used to be like $40 or $60. I got my first like $120 bill recently.
Yeah.
And I was literally like shocked because I barely use the electricity in my house.
Oh, dude. And
that was a wake up.
You're in San Francisco, which is one of the most, from an energy use intensity, EUI, it's the most efficient geographies in the US, I believe.
Yeah.
Cool climate. We have small spaces, but we don't electrify much. Like we don't have heating, enough cooling, right?
Yeah.
So our bills are like very low. Should be very low.
Should be.
You go to like Fresno, right? Central California. Dude, there are homes that have $1,000 bills.
Well, because the AC's got to run all the time.
I mean, and they gotta like clean the air because they have like dust and pollution.
Yeah.
It's crazy. And it is, we are now at the position where, if there was a notion of like pushing to get business, now we're getting pulled.
Yep.
That's why it took so long to get this interview with you set up, because I can't make the time.
This is a busy man right here, ladies and gentlemen.
The days are long, but very fulfilling. Because people are struggling. Like we do have an energy affordability crisis in California.
We have an energy crisis, period, right?
Period. Generally, nationally, that's a whole bigger conversation. I'm sure we'll get to the data centers with you in a moment. But in California itself, we have an affordability crisis.
Right.
It's not as loud because the people that are suffering for it are the minorities, the quieter people that don't get as much visibility.
Right.
But from the businesses I work with, my customers, I do see in their public recordings and in the conversations I have with them, as they're planning for their operational growth or reliability, electricity is the question that's top of their mind.
Yep.
And like we cannot do growth.
Yeah.
And have reliable operations without solving the energy problems in California.
So let's start with that, with the energy problem in California. Why have electricity costs been going up at a double-digit CAGR?
There's a few good reasons behind that in California. Or good, or I would say direct contribution for it. Aging infrastructure.
Yes.
And, we are an older state, bigger state, trying to grow. Infrastructure costs get rate-based at a guaranteed rate of return by the utilities.
For most of the audience, that's going to sound confusing. What does that mean when you say it's rate-based?
Oh, so utilities charge you for the electricity you use.
Right.
That's called a rate, right? That's their revenue. That's how they get their money in the top line revenue that comes in. The utilities in California are essentially privately owned, right? They're not like public entities. They're regulated by California Public Utilities Commission, but they have private investors. As part of the re-regulation in California, essentially a deal was made that in order for the private investors to make money, every time they spend money on infrastructure, like poles and wires, they get a guaranteed rate of return of about 10%, give or take. In order for them to recover that interest, that profit on the investment that they make, these investors, that money has to come from the revenues, i.e. electricity rates that we pay. So when we say rate-based, means your profits have to come from electricity payments, right? Electricity bill that they collect from you as the ratepayer.
But one thing I want to just be super, super clear on, because I think, and particularly for some of the more sort of Bitcoin mind, this is going to sound like, I wonder why it's regulated in this way. The rate-based, the tariffs that they're charging and the sort of rate of return that they're getting on those investments, those are decided by the
CPUC,
Utility
California
Commission.
Public Utility. Yeah, they propose it. CPUC, the Public Utility Commission, goes through it. Usually like pushes back on them. Recently, just to get a sense of numbers, the utilities go to CPUC and have asked for like an 18% increase.
The fuck?
And then CPUC pushes back and they come down to 13%.
Right.
So that's the kind of numbers we're talking about in California right now.
And just to be clear, when I hear this, and you're much more in the details, but this is what I've always thought about, it sounds an awful lot like when there's a couple dudes in a room licking their fingers saying, I actually think treasuries are going to yield about 4.5%. I don't know, man. Like, why do we not have a market setting that rate?
I mean, that's the rule of this geography. California decided, has voted, that's our government, that's how we've decided to secure our energy independence, energy market.
Right.
Texas does it differently, right? Like there's different ways every geography votes to do it.
Right.
We have chosen this, right? And how that changes, that's a whole other process of that changes. But the calculation that goes into it, I can tell you, the three causes are, and these are prevailing, grid hardening infrastructure because grid is aging. The high wind events are causing damage. So the utilities have to like bury lines and secure, upgrade. Those are capital costs that will contribute to electricity costs going up to the consumers, the ratepayers. Wildfire mitigation in California, we don't tax base that, right? Like when a location sets on fire and there's damage and there's costs to be paid, we don't tax that local geography to recover those funds. You could do that, but the decision in California is we put that into our electric rates.
So let me get this straight. What exactly goes in electric? Like when Malibu burned down, the rebuilding of that is going to go into the electric rate?
The infrastructure costs to rebuild all of that,
but not
goes into rates.
Okay, so when you say the infrastructure costs, more than just the poles and wires for electricity, like for example the roads and
the lawsuits, the damages, whatever. Like if the utility got sued and they had to pay like $10 million or whatever, or $10 billion, whatever it is, that money
that gets rate based.
That gets rate based.
Oh, yeah. Okay. Yeah. I'm now beginning to understand why costs are skyrocketing.
That comes in.
Okay.
And then there is the
privatize the gains, socialize the losses.
There's a lot of that, yeah. And then there is the goal to be 100% renewable in California, SB 100. That is going to require us now, as the next stage, to go get bulk power from outside the geographic boundaries of the state, primarily from wind, either from eastern states or go off the coast of the Pacific. To do that, you have to build transmission lines. Mm-hmm. Those transmission lines are infrastructure. That cost will be rate-based. These three factors, like grid hardening to prevent more fires, the cost of repair for more fires that unfortunately are going to happen, bulk transmission projects, those are three key factors that are going to continue, have led to the cost increases so far, and are going to continue to create that. So
one very specific point I'd like to better understand is I've been going deep on transmission and distribution costs. And just to be clear, so the transmission, that's like the sort of high voltage, longer distances you're shipping electricity. And then the distribution would be sort of like the mini roads that go from home to home or whatever. Yeah. Could you give us a sense of like, what is the rough cost for each of those? If you think about it in a sort of in the levelized cost of electricity sense, and why are those specifically so high? Like I've been trying to get, and we're going to talk more about the possibilities for off grid and a new grid and my crazy out there thesis. But as the general trend I've observed is it used to be that generation of electricity was about half the cost, transmission and distribution about half. But increasingly transmission and distribution are becoming, because solar and storage, which we'll talk more about, keep falling, these prices for transmission and distribution keep rising. Some of that, I'm sure, is all the things you already told us, but it also looks like there's issues like transformers. Like no one can get transformers. There's a huge shortage. Yeah. What else is going on there? And like, What is your sense for why transmission and distribution is getting so damn expensive?
Yeah. So first, to answer the question of like portion of cost that is transmission, distribution versus generation.
Yeah.
So when we started, it used to be that it was about 60-70% generation, 30% or so distribution, transmission on your electric bill.
Yep.
Now it's 50-50 and it's trending the other way.
Okay.
And if the same trend, the market rules continue, forecast out 20 years from now, it will be all transmission distribution. Essentially, the grid will be a tax for being able to connect to it, which I don't think it will happen, because at some point there will be enough people disconnecting. Like, it will start to make sense to get off the grid, because it's like, why pay this tax? I don't want to be part of this anymore.
Exactly.
I'll go build a home somewhere else and I'll be off grid.
The utility death spiral, as it used to be called,
is coming. And before it gets there, things will get much worse. But before it actually death spirals, we will have another re-regulation in California. I believe in 2030s we will have that. There will be another reset that will happen in the state. And why it's happening is cost of generation is coming down, right? Gas generation has gotten a lot cheaper over the past decade and a half. Solar and wind has come online. Batteries came, they were expensive, but now grid scale batteries are crushing it.
Oh, dude.
I mean, it's like
the battery game is insane.
Like,
right
batteries
now.
are now eating more batteries. Like, it's just like, the early on batteries were making good money. Now more batteries are coming online, and the game is getting more like sophisticated.
Yeah.
And the peak demands are like going down.
Yeah.
The problems we used to have, like this duck curve that we've had,
there is no more duck curve.
Temporarily duck curve, and it will go away.
Yeah.
Because the pace of deployment to essentially help wholesale market costs come down has been up and to the right, cost down and to the right.
Yeah. And it keeps getting cheaper, just like solar. Solar and batteries.
Yeah.
I mean, this is the key. If there's one key idea I would love everyone to take away as they think about these things, it's the same thing as like Moore's Law. When you and interestingly, very similar, right? We're talking about silicon-based essentially circuits that were just getting cheaper and cheaper and cheaper as you can print them, and getting thinner and thinner for solar. And batteries also benefit from the same economies of scale in manufacturing. So unlike a lot of the other energy technologies, these just keep getting cheaper and cheaper.
And they're not customized. Like, you build one coal plant, build one coal plant, right? Like, I'm sure there's similarities in coal plants or nuclear plants, like in some way or form, but the learning curve isn't as fast.
Exactly.
Like solar, batteries, these things have very high learning curves. Like you learn it on one job, your next job will be cheaper.
Exactly.
So on and so forth. You add 10 plus years of that, you get a lot of those learnings like happen in place.
The magic of compounding.
There's still more to go. But then on the electric bill side, like you as a homeowner or a business paying for your electricity, because there's certain fixed costs to run the grid, right? And people are either making more energy efficient decisions, or they're putting solar on their roofs. The utilities have to figure out a way to recover their costs, right? So then they start to cost associate of, okay, you'll pay for your electricity because of this component, we'll put more towards transmission distribution charges versus generation charges or energy charges. So that portion of your bill starts to get smaller, and T&D starts to get bigger.
Mm-hmm.
That's on the cost accounting side of it.
Right.
But at the actual installation construction level, I mean, that's just like labor and materials, right? Like poles and wires, that is union labor work in California. That is, you gotta order like big steel, big copper, big transformer. These are all, heavy machinery, heavy type work that just keeps getting more and more expensive every year. The last estimate was like to build a mile of transmission, it's like $2 million a mile or something like that. Like some crazy number.
And what does that translate to on the LCOE, the levelized cost of electricity? Like, are we talking like 5 cents a kilowatt hour?
LCOE, the calculations are all done at the generation source. Yeah. So you compare the generation cost coming out of a gas plant, coal plant, solar, battery.
Yeah.
Add in the transmission distribution really has to do a matter of geography. Are you bringing that power from the middle of a desert to a city? Or is the power being generated on site?
Mm-hmm.
It's like solar on my rooftop doesn't have to go much far. Yeah. Solar from middle of the desert has to travel a lot.
Totally.
Same thing with the gas plant. It has to go through the grid.
Yeah.
So those add to the delivery cost of the power, not necessarily the LCOE of it.
Right. But I guess what I'm trying to get at is like, $2 million a mile. if you had to try and like sort of levelize that in a way of like, okay.
Oh yeah, you pay for the whole transmission distribution.
Yeah.
Yeah, that would have to be project by project based to see if what would be the cost added to a project. So you have a 50 megawatt gas plant, right? That produces 80% uptime, 70% uptime. Do the math of generation there and then add the total cost of build out plus the transmission distribution lines.
Well, so to be clear, let's say, what's the average cost that a ratepayer pays in California? Like 15 cents a kilowatt hour now?
Oh no, dude, those are old numbers.
I'm embarrassed.
You like residential in PG&E territory, you would be paying like 40 to 60 cents.
Get the fuck out.
Where you are. Oh yeah.
Are you serious?
Commercial, industrial, you're at 25, 35 cents.
Holy shit. Okay. I clearly haven't paid attention to my bill that much.
No, it's a lot, man. It is not we're not a cheap state.
But to be clear, Texas is what, like 7?
I don't know, actually. I don't know how.
Much lower than California.
I don't know what they pay exactly. And their market is quite different. Like your energy is like disconnected from your delivery side. Well, I know they're doing a lot of solar and battery there too. So
yeah. Okay. So back to the transmission distribution. So, you mentioned, okay, there's all these different costs going, union labor, and you have to get the right steel, and there's a shortage on transformers, which I'm curious why there's a shortage on transformers as well. But let's say you're doing this like first principles analysis. How cheap could you get it? Let's say you didn't have to use union labor. You could use, I don't know, an Optimus robot.
Yeah.
Or let's say, whatever, you were able to negotiate whatever you wanted for these materials. Like, from a very first principles perspective, how cheap could transmission distribution be? Or is it just that the things we need, there are shortages of them and it's going to be expensive no matter what?
I mean, why is it expensive now? I think we're dealing with a few big trends. One, the industrialization in the US, right? We have not been making as much stuff.
Yeah.
Followed by COVID that disrupted a lot of things in production. And then now we've been caught off guard with, oh shit, we have to go build a lot of stuff because we need the power, right?
Because the robots are coming.
I mean, at least the robots inside the data centers are here, and then the next wave of robots the actual robots will be here.
Yeah.
That's why we're behind, and it's a big shortage, and costs are going up and ballooning. We are in a pinch, as best as I can describe it. How much cheaper could it all get if it goes to zero? I mean, cost of energy generation, I can tell you with solar at large scale, is quite low, right? It's not firm. It's not, it's intermittent. But with batteries, you can get a bit more extension out of it. And I don't quite know long duration storage, where it's going to fall out. I feel every time I look at it, there's like interesting long duration energy storage companies that are trying to do stuff, but then lithium ion just keeps getting cheaper and you just add more packs and more packs. And
learning rates, baby. Just trust the curves.
2-hour batteries, now it's 4, now we're looking at 8. Just double the lithium ion pack and it's the same inverter. So I don't know where that ends up, but I would bet lithium ion is here and or lithium phosphate is here and it will keep going. But look, at a really big scale, you are getting down to like, sub 5 cents a kilowatt hour for cost of electricity coming out of these plants.
And that's solar plus storage.
Solar plus storage, yeah.
So I want to be very clear because I feel like the audience probably is not going to have any idea. And I'm going to be careful now because clearly my numbers are still from 2014. But, to sort of just level set. So something like natural gas is, the cheapest sort of fossil fuel, steady state sort of power that we have access to. And that's something, it used to be around 7-8 cents kilowatt hour. Is that still fair? Something like that?
I think so, yeah.
So let's just call it 7-8 cents. Meanwhile, solar alone in very sunny regions of the world, I've seen like in Abu Dhabi and even in Mexico.
They're like doing it for like a penny. Like it's insane.
1 cent a kilowatt hour. Like it's almost fucking free. Like I just want to get that point across because I don't think many people just like understand. They're like, oh, nat gas and this. It's like, yeah, we get it. You like nat gas, 7 cents, 1 cent. What are you going to build? Now, to be clear, solar, obviously intermittent.
Yeah.
But if you, and this is the thing that I've been getting deeper and deeper on, is this just how much can you overbuild solar plus storage? Because for me, the holy grail is if you can get solar plus storage under 3, maybe even under 2 cents a kilowatt hour, the big question I have as you overbuild and overbuild is, and this is the core thesis that I just wrote. For those of you who are listening to this, maybe the paper will have dropped by the time this comes out. My new paper, which is it's time to build a new grid. And the fundamental thesis was very sort of heavily influenced by this Casey Hannemer guy. I don't know if you've seen, he's been making the rounds on all the podcasts, excellent blog, Caltech dude.
Okay.
And he put out a post in 2020. I've been following his stuff for some while. He was also Ramez non-pilled, back when I was. And, one of the fundamental things he basically says is like, look, solar plus storage is going to get so damn cheap that even if, the utility starts getting its act together, T&D, transmission distribution costs, are going to be too high to basically ever interconnect with the grid. It's a very radical statement. I know that sounds kind of batshit, but then you start thinking about it, it's like, if we can really get sub 2 cents kilowatt hour, we can just go bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger. Why would I pay the 5 to 10 cents a kilowatt hour to connect to the grid? I get reliability. Yeah. I get there's like black swan insurance, but dude, what do you say to that?
I will give you like what I get paid to do.
Yes.
I mean, this isn't like the hypothetical, like in Abu Dhabi, they're doing this thing, which is true. They're doing it there. They have all a desert. They also don't have any labor laws.
Right.
That's their geography, their rules.
Right.
They have to sort it out. We have our geography, our rules.
Right.
So like, I'm not looking for a penny per kilowatt hour for solar. Right?
Not yet.
And I mean, I think we will get there.
Yeah,
but I'm not like today, my business doesn't exist because we have a penny per kilowatt hour solar.
Right.
We're much higher than that, especially at the commercial scale, 5 megawatt, that kind of size. But the notion of over provisioning, overbuilding solar, it is very much part of the calculus.
Right.
Like, we're not afraid of overbuilding solar.
Right.
That is actually inherent in the economics of what makes sense.
Yep.
Just actually today, I was working with one of my colleagues, and we were modeling for a wastewater plant in California, in PG&E territory, where their electricity costs per year is about $1.1 million dollars per year. And they have dipped their toe into solar. They did the battery early on. They didn't like it.
Why didn't they like it?
Early on, batteries,
not reliable yet.
Not reliable.
Yeah.
Like, they bricked out. Like, I have removed so many batteries from sites.
Really?
Oh, yeah.
I didn't know
like
that.
early 2012 era batteries.
Yeah.
Most of those are gone. They're replaced with new batteries.
Got it.
That's kind of the interesting thing about solar and batteries, by the way. Once you go solar, you never go back.
Of course.
I have never had a customer who has installed solar, even the early ones,
right,
that has said, yeah, let's just, wrap this up.
Yeah,
they all want to repower.
Raise my rates.
Yeah, they all want to repower. They all want to add batteries. They want a microgrid. Right. They all want their EV chargers in there.
Yeah.
And interestingly, actually, there's a natgas play coming into all of these too. But for this customer, we're modeling for them to figure out, their question to us, like, they are hiring us to figure out for them, what is a scenario by which we use no electricity from PG&E? That's the utility of this geography.
So totally off grid.
Not to go off grid, like, they'll set PG&E connected because by law you have the right to have a connection to the utility. But what if we self-generated all of our own power for self-consumption? How would that look like?
Yeah.
And we're modeling solar, battery, and natural gas for them to create a microgrid for them, runs in parallel to the grid. It can grid disconnect when the grid goes out, which will continue to go out more in California because of our wildfire threats. We'll get to a bit more. But in order to make that happen and economically optimally size this thing, we are going to have to overgenerate solar. Right? You're not, because of the seasonality, because of the fixed capacity of the battery, we will have surplus solar that we'll have to put a question mark around on what to do with it. But without it, there's actually a project still here with multiple megawatts of solar. I think we're modeling 8 megawatts of solar for them. And the last set had 4 megawatt battery, 4 hours.
Okay.
And we're sizing the nat gas right now, which is pretty interesting.
How would you, I'm interested to talk more about the nat gas. Would you bring in like temporary generators? Like, or what are those turbines like?
Yeah. So anywhere else in the country might have different, air emission standards, but we are in a world in California that our air emissions are quite strict for pollutants. And the traditional recip engines don't cut it anymore. Most air quality permitting districts actually don't let you do that.
Yeah.
It's a lot worse in Southern California than up here, or more restrict, I should say. But there's a new technology, new kid on the block called linear generators. They run much cooler. They actually have fewer moving parts and fewer things that connect. It's our technology out of a shop that came out of a couple of engineers out of Stanford. They've been working at it for, I think, 15 years or so on the tech.
Yeah.
And the last few years, like they're now commercialized, and because their emissions are much lower and below the California Air Resources Board requirements and the Air Quality Permitting District's needs, it's actually now rejuvenated the interest in, we can also put in natural gas power generators here, or in cases of areas where they have access to like biogas methane,
right,
which is like dairy farms do, wastewater plants do, sanitary plants do. You can actually treat your biogas, your methane, purify it, feed that to these engines, and that will produce you power. So
the mix is primarily solar and storage with what, like 20% backup or something for the nat gas?
So generally what we're seeing to make sense for the economics is about 30% or so base load-ish nat gas.
Yeah.
Because these devices, people also love to talk about how like natural gas is base load. It's not. These devices also go up and down. They need maintenance.
True.
I look at the 15-minute interval data of actual plants operating.
Yeah.
And it's never your steady eddy. Oh, here's my base load power. Get out of here. Like it is.
Batteries is the only thing that can really do that, right?
Batteries actually fluctuate rapidly on a dime.
Exactly.
And they are like the savior of the whole thing.
I agree. Batteries are the MVP.
This whole thing exists because batteries are here and they can control and they can get ahead. I mean, dude, the peak demand shaving capabilities of batteries now has come such a long way. And you look at like how quickly, like they're measuring current, millisecond at a time.
So awesome.
As soon as they notice that you're going up, and with machine learning and AI that's on top of them now, they start to discharge. And like the grid meter doesn't see the spike.
Yep.
Like they're like crushing the peak shaving and time of use shifting. It's an amazing new technology to be adding on top of solar.
So I want to just jump into batteries by itself. I mean, I want to come back to the solar plus batteries plus nat gas, but batteries by itself, my understanding, I heard this idea that I love of thinking about batteries is almost like the high frequency traders of the grid, right? Like they're sitting there like being Jane Street, essentially market making. Because you said they're the only resource that I'm aware of that can go millisecond on off.
Yeah.
Whereas nat gas, like 15 minutes or I'm sure more in a lot of cases.
It's a much bigger, it's a thermodynamic process. It needs a lot more time.
Exactly. So versus an electrical one. Yeah. So with the battery thing though, how much can batteries really do or play in California on the grid? Like, for example, kind of to get ahead of where we're going this, if we had a totally free market with like real-time price signals, batteries are going to eat that up.
Yeah.
But in the existing infrastructure,
so we do, right? Yeah, there's really two electricity, I'll call them markets that we live in. There's a wholesale market, which has all the rules of a wholesale market. You have day ahead, hour ahead, 5-minute real-time pricing, frequency trading, all that kind of stuff. That all exists. Then there's retail, which is like what you and I pay because of the building we live in.
Yeah.
Our rules and our rates are different than what's in the wholesale market, right? We are pretty much disconnected. There is a correlation, but it takes like usually a number of years before wholesale market stuff actually impacts retail stuff because there's a timeline in how rates get fixed, adjusted.
Right.
There's a process in California called the General Rate Case Study that 3 years long, and it adjusts. Like, for example, for the longest time, you had low to negative pricing in wholesale markets in California because of solar.
Yeah.
But peak day pricing for retail, homeowners, businesses was still middle of the day.
Okay.
It took some time before this wholesale stuff translated into what's happening now, where peak pricing are 4 to 9 p.m.
Yep.
I mean, that happened.
Which makes sense.
There was it makes sense, but it just takes time, right?
Yeah.
Like there's a lag between wholesale to retail. In Texas, it's more immediate.
Yeah.
There it's different. And I'll say this for the utilities in California, this year, January 1, they've all started to roll out essentially dynamic rate pilot for commercial customers.
Interesting.
Where you as a retail customer
can
participate in essentially day ahead pricing in wholesale markets. And if you adjust your load to match those costs, you can take advantage of the cheaper electricity rate.
Cool. But to be clear, because I know Texas is a much freer market, and so there have been some companies there that have tried to give like retail users the option to like expose themselves to the markets, and people end up with like $100,000 bills or something.
I'm sure you can get in trouble, but a lot of that,
so to be clear, it's not necessarily a panacea, but
no, it's not. But I think California is trying to figure itself out to get there.
Yeah.
And look, I think just one thing we talk about is over the last 15 years, the technology stack for distributed generation. I mean,
Yep.
going back to that same terminology, like, there's wholesale market, there's big power plants, but then pretty much everybody can do something on their backyard, right?
Yep.
That technology stack is getting bigger and bigger and better and better. The rules of the grid in California are no longer, can sustain the fact that this technology exists.
Yep.
So this battle is coming. This push is happening, and you can argue it's happening systematically and at the pace it has to happen for California, or you can say it's too slow. But it's coming. Like there is. I don't think I'll be rounding out the next 15 years of my career in California and I'll be doing playing by the same rules. I think it will. It will
definitely
change.
not. Yeah. Okay. So let's talk about, step by step what's coming next. Let's talk off grid for a minute.
Yeah.
So, in order to fully understand off grid, I also want to set the stage a little bit, which we were talking about earlier. I think everyone has been shocked at some of the power, at least stories we're hearing, demand stories for AI.
Yeah.
I will tell you from some of the companies that I work with, I have just been flabbergasted to the point where I've never seen anything like this in my entire life, where it's like, I've seen things like 50x, real fucking fast. Yeah. And, you see all these stories, you read my paper, and there's so many examples of there. Zuck saying he's going to throw down hundreds of billions of dollars. Elon, who I would never shade that guy, saying he's going to build a terawatt, which I'm all for, baby. Let's get to terawatt-scale grids, type 1 civilization, here we come. Anthropic calling for the more conservative 50 gigawatts of new generation for their load. But anyways, you have all of these AI labs, not to mention China, in breakneck competition. And when I see all of this, one stat that stuck with me is in ERCOT, in Texas's grid. My understanding is peak load there is about 80 gigawatts. So for those of you listening, that's when everyone's running their AC and all the smelters are smelting, the whole population. Everybody, 80 gigawatts. Okay. And that right now for data centers is over 130 gigawatts asking to get built. I understand not everyone's going to do it. I understand there's games to get in the queue, but whatever. The point is there's a multiple of the humans already being asked to be built for the data centers. So, on the one hand, meanwhile, in China, they're building solar like crazy. They're set to dwarf us in terms of, in the next 3 years, they'll put more solar on the ground, generation capacity than we have in our entire grid today. Okay, that's pretty crazy. And so you see all these things playing out, and there are people saying, well, we can do certain things like, make the data centers responsive. Great. Maybe that frees up, tens of gigawatts of additional capacity. Cool. You see people saying things like, oh, we need to slash regulations. Maybe one day the government will even start eminent domaining if it becomes like a race with China. Okay, all those things happen. But at some point, I've gotten to the point, and please tell me what your reaction to this is, where even if we get rid of a lot of the regulations, even if we streamline getting more solar built, more load interconnected, it looks like, to your point, the grid is so old in so many places and so dated. I'm very skeptical that if we wanted to scale it to a multi-terawatt scale grid today, that it's even possible. And so number one, I'm curious if you agree with that take or not. And then number two, I'm starting to see more and more calls for people say, okay, fuck it. If it's going to take 5 years to get either our generation or storage capacity or our load interconnected, we're just going to go off grid. And if we can, get a big enough off taker, like I saw, reports of Intersect doing 1 and 3 gigawatt scale projects, mostly solar and storage with a little bit of natgas as backup for Google, then okay, why wait around for the grid? What's your reaction to all of that?
I guess, I would say
a lot in there.
There's a lot in there.
Yeah.
And I think we might want to actually identify what we're trying to do today with this conversation.
Yes.
Are we trying to change your mind? Are we trying to forecast what's going to come?
Yeah.
I think it'd be good to set that tone for the audience.
Well, number one, I would like to find the truth. What's real, what's hype, and then your best guess at forecasting.
So I think in terms of the AI load, right? Everybody got caught off guard, right? Including, I would say, Elon himself. He's like, oh shit, I'm behind in this game.
Which I've never seen that.
Right?
Elon's never behind, right?
And then he comes back from behind, builds out Grog and XAI, and they deploy, is it called Colossus or something?
In Memphis, my hometown.
In Memphis? Oh, is it? Is that right?
Do it for the M, baby.
And they got that done in 122 days, which is shockingly fast.
Yeah, I didn't know that was possible.
A data center, you talk to anybody in the development side, it's 18 months to build it. That's as fast as they can do it, right? The pros in the game that they claim to go around, take VC money, say, we'll build it for you 18 months. And I've supported 2 data center developments in Colorado. So like I've had these conversations with these people. But Elon builds it in 122 days. Who knows how many rules they broke, laws they broke, like codes they violated. The whole thing's powered by natgas, I believe, right now before they get a grid connection. So, hell or high water, the guy builds it, right? So that's just to speak to this surprise of like, oh shit, I'm behind, I gotta do this. And now these are the big names that we know because it's in the media and it's clickbaity for all of us. But there's a whole cohort of people trying to rush and figure out to be the first player, the one that scales the fastest and gets the most eyeballs. I don't know how much you play with AI agents and tools. Every day there's 10 new ones coming out. Like it's an exhaustive list.
I use Grok a lot as a research assistant.
I use a number of them and I tested a bunch of them. There's also a lot of like diminishing results with my time. Like I get that I can have agents do stuff for me, and I'm that guy. Like Sunday morning, I'm in bed and I'm talking to Michelle, and I've got a job on this one.
Probably going to talk to the wife more.
A job on the other one. I'm like, I'm out of ideas of how many jobs I can run. Right.
I swear, Annie's just helping me with something new.
Like the other day, I had this idea. I was like, can I go buy a wastewater plant in California and take it private, like a public one? And
could you?
This? And I was like, I had like AI do this research. I was like, research this, research the laws, give me case examples, like blah, blah. So I have one agent doing this. I have another one doing another one. At some point, you're like, okay, like, you can't have so many like apps open. And these agents, that's a cool name for apps. So I think at some point, clear players will dominate and will have like, their specialty, and you'll go to that for what they do. So just like the .com boom, any other boom, there will be, there's a hype right now of how many of these data centers we need, how many companies will actually survive. At some point, the music will stop, and some investors will realize, oh yeah, they're not going to get their money back because everybody's competing for the next freest, cheapest AI tool, and
society benefits, just like we do with the fiber build out.
Yeah, I mean, like, people will want it, and they'll find a way to make ad revenue off of it or something, and at some point,
why is it?
The investors will want free cash flow.
To be clear, I mean from the infrastructure, the ad-supported business models, society will not benefit from it.
But that's how we fund stuff, right? At least in the U.S. I don't know how they pay for stuff in China, but that is how it's going to happen here, right? So there's a massive like pent-up demand of who gets there first, who gets to scale first, right? Because the notion of to get there first is usually wrong, right? Especially in Silicon Valley, it's like the first to scale, the first to build distribution. So however big the problem is now, I think there's probably some course correction on that to come, right? And it will fizzle down, and it will get even bigger than what we ever thought, right? Just like solar, just like internet. Like there is a crazy hype down, and then it will slowly build up properly. So we are in the first hype. And then can we actually build it? No. Like you just can't. And this isn't like a headline news. This is, I have talked to the utility that, again, for these 2 data center projects I was supporting. And we needed, for the first phase of the build out, we needed 300 megawatt connection. And the guy laughed on the phone with us, right? He's like,
always a good sign.
He's like, I can give you 25 to start, right? You guys can self-generate behind the meter, don't export. I don't care. And over the next 10 years, we'll figure out how to get you to 300 megawatts. And then more. Meanwhile, on this property, this is like a massive land that started with a big solar battery development, and then the data center came in, and now it's like a data center development on top of solar and battery development. It's an area in Colorado where coal plants are retiring, so there's power needs, there's a whole bunch of things going on. And immediately went from like, oh, 300 megawatt data center is pretty cool and exciting. But as you talk to data center developers, some of our friends are like,
3 gigawatt.
Can you give me 1.2? Like, could that be phase 1 of 4? And this is last year. So I'm sure right now it would be like 3 gigawatts, right? Even more. And like the grid cannot actually give you the infrastructure to get the power through it. So you're going to be in a waiting game until, it takes like a, World War II, workforce development to go build out grid infrastructure, power plants. Meanwhile, capital is not patient. We're not just competing internally with, ourselves. There's like, to your point, China is also building this stuff out. So, can we ban Chinese AI tools? we ban other stuff from China, right? Maybe we'll have our own AI and we'll live here, and that's okay, whatever the rest of the world happens. But that macro level of geopolitical side of it is a whole other conversation to have. But within the US itself, within our own boundaries, electricity and water for these data centers are key issues.
Yeah.
And yeah, many of them I have seen deals get done on purely off-grid data centers. PPAs get signed, like power purchase agreements get signed to power a data center, and that data center is okay with that, like off-grid power,
right?
Because what they're selling, the watts they're selling, the GPUs they're selling to the people that are buying that training, capacity, they're okay with the level of flexibility that data center is giving them.
Right.
And the other big overhype is, which a lot of colleagues on Twitter are helping dismantle, is the notion that data centers have to be 24/7 uptime.
I've seen a lot of
and we must power them with nukes. Like, no, they don't have to be 24/7 uptime. And I think you and I both know data center operators are like, we'll take 70% and we'll be flexible.
Yeah.
Because the value of, again, whatever you get, right? The dollar per watt is much higher than the dollar per kilowatt hour you're paying to get it.
Totally.
And it's not worth that extra 30% uptime.
Totally. And so it seems to me, like, number one, for the big hyperscalers, they're almost cost insensitive at this point, and it's just more about speed. And if it really is about speed, and sure, maybe off-grid's a little bit more expensive initially, but again, solar battery learning curves, the more we deploy, the cheaper it gets. So eventually that gets cheaper and cheaper. But if they're like, okay, my options are, whatever, I wait 5 years to pay, 7 cents a kilowatt hour or 40 in California. I guess they're probably not building in California. Or I, whatever, pay double what I would pay, but I get it built in under 12 months or under 18 months if I'm not Elon. I'm going with the second option because in the meantime, like to your point, I can make I'm leaving so much money on the table if I don't get that built. So if that's the case, my biggest question that I have is, and I guess maybe the Intersect Google deals, and Elon recently announced that they're building a solar campus next to Colossus, which makes a lot of sense to me.
Yeah.
Why hasn't this happened already? Did you see that there was that off-grid paper last year? Some of the DER guys and a few others.
Duncan and those guys from
Task
Force. Yeah. Off-grid AI, yeah.
And I've
that's
read
that model. It's gas, solar battery.
Yeah. Although, to be clear, some guys and they were saying, forget the gas. Like that was the contrarian opinion. But sure, whatever. Assume a little bit of gas. In those models, like, I was playing the numbers and it does pencil. And so my big question is, why hasn't this happened already? Like, why aren't we seeing Google, Amazon, Facebook, all these guys doing whatever? If they want a 10 gigawatt site, maybe that's crazy to start, but like, okay, cool. We'll pay whatever it is. Just build it.
I mean, I would say it is happening. Like Colossus is all nat gas. Yeah. Like that whole thing is natural gas power. It's polluting the air. It's bad for the environment, bad for the local population. For however long they're going to let it run.
Right.
I think that's a decision for, again, that the people in that area to decide. Memphis, But there is a lot of gas power generators going in.
Yep. But why not solar and storage with it? I mean, I guess Elon's a little bit now, but
that's a good question for, you labeled me a solar maxi, which we'll come back to in a moment. Well, like even like the biggest solar maxi of all, Elon, right, isn't powering his data centers with solar because it's not quite there yet.
Why?
I mean, space, timeline, it's much faster for him to go find, 30 or 40 generators, plug those in, get power up as much as he could, crank those things out, to catch up, right? He's like looking for a pinch hitter, right? This is what he's solving for right now. A year from now, probably, right? We'll have more of that getting done. And it's of course like solar development is, I wish it was just about, physics and finance, but there's also a lot of policy and like investment tax credit, and there's like
land rights.
There's a whole bunch of other stuff tied to it that makes it complicated. But if you've got, a building and you're tight for space, you will put a generator behind it.
Yeah.
One thing that I think is also going to change, right, is in the power industry, I would say if you look at like the generation of independent power producers, people that have been in the business of either investing in power plants or state regulators or state agencies that commission power plants to get built, there's always a fear, and people have had this fear for many, many decades, and it's going to take a long time for it to wash away and get forgotten, which is the fear of stranded assets.
Yeah.
If you zoom out to we've had this electric grid for 100 years or so, right? most of that, probably 99 years of that, has been stranded fear of like, oh, we overbuilt.
Yep.
Hydro, coal, nat gas, poles and wires, right? I mean, building transmission lines, you inherently build it for a stranded purpose because you build it for the peak capacity, right?
Yeah.
Like Texas's grid is at 86 gigawatt right now, but that's only happens like, one time in a year.
Exactly.
It's pushing up against that more and more, but most of that grid is stranded, is underutilized, right? Why hasn't Africa been electrified? Because of the fear of concerns of all the stranded generation that have been there. Our buddy Eric's company, like they're going and picking up stranded hydro assets and they are repowering them with Bitcoin mining because now they're giving them a reason to get powered up because the villages did not electrify. People could not actually buy that power. And companies like Mitsubishi that makes generators, right, as a manufacturer, they have to hard tool, invest in order to build gas generators, turbines, that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
But they have to meet like contracts that are, multi-year long. And but the whole industry of power generation has been living with the fear of like, go slow because electricity rate growth has been, maybe 2%, maybe 0, maybe flat. We did energy efficiency from the 70s, when we had the energy crisis then. But we're actually trying to like get off using more. Like we're in the conservation mode, which we're turning that around now. So culturally, the people that have been doing this stuff, right, Gen Xers, let's call them, and boomers, they've been doing it on like, be careful, don't overinvest, don't go fast. Now it's like, we need the other attitude. We need the wartime attitude. We need like the Elon Musk type. Oh my God, I have to build Colossus in 122 days so I can catch up with Sam Altman. Otherwise, I have nothing to play in this game, right? So we are in that like, disaster mode right now. We got to catch up. And so what's going to change is, and I think I said Mitsubishi because I think I saw an announcement by them. They're like now leaning in heavy in building a lot of gas turbines.
Yeah, I saw that.
Because like they want, they see customers and they're like, whoever can sell the next generator, they will find a customer. They will get that.
But to be clear, and another point for the audience as well to realize, even if you wanted to go full Elon to get started and just put up a whole bunch of like gas turbines, like the other point you're making with the Mitsubishi thing is the gas turbines, like the transformers, you can't get them.
No, I mean, there's a backlog, right? Like everything is backlogged.
Everything is backlogged.
Yeah, everything is backlogged. It is hard to get anything right now.
And is that, you think COVID is like a big reason for that?
I think in the US we had that, right? Like there was a lot of, like before AI boom or even our projects, commercial scale, once we came out of like the shutdown and we wanted to get back up and buy equipment, there was already a backlog. 48 weeks for a switchgear. Like it's still there.
But critically, there isn't a backlog for solar and batteries. Is that fair?
No, because like, China is manufacturing them. China, Taiwan, you can get those readily available.
Yeah.
I mean, that's kind of the crazy part about like this whole story about China is they invested in it. They led.
Yeah.
They saw the VHS Betamax race and they're like, we are going full VHS and we are like gonna be that country that produces this.
It's impressive.
And the whole world gets these solar panels now. Because they leaned in. And they weren't, afraid of the oversupply of solar panels. And
it's ironic that the communist country leaned the most into the market, right?
I mean, it's insane. I mean, I every panel you buy is from China.
Yeah.
Like, there are some US made stuff and some projects have US, made requirements.
How much of a risk is that, by the way? So let's say everything else is sold out. We want to go terawatt scale eventually off grid with solar and batteries. Number one, if we get into, a pissing war with China even more than we are now, if they decide to tariff us, on the panels or just cut it off, that seems like a huge weakness. Or number two, I know this sounds a little bit more tinfoil hat, but, there's a lot of Bitcoiners listening, so it is what it is.
You got to throw one out for the Bitcoiners. Are crazy.
Exactly. But, in all seriousness, though, for those guys, I've heard there's concerns about China doing like being able to do basically surveillance or eavesdropping from the panels themselves now. I don't know if that's true, but how concerned are you about that? And is that a problem we can remedy? Like, because even if we say, okay, cool, we have to go solar and batteries, we're then, at least until we get, all that manufacturing capacity up in the US, which in principle we can, but we can't do it today.
No.
I mean, it seems like we're even more at the mercy of China. Is that fair?
No, we are. I mean, this is like solar panels are now the global commodity that is controlled heavily by China, and we need it. People here want it. Yeah, I don't know about viruses or whatever surveillance coming through solar panels or batteries. I hope somebody's looking out for that. That wasn't a thing on my radar, but now I'm going to have to think about this. But no, I mean, look, that aside.
We bring the paranoia in the Bitcoin community.
Gotta go home, grok.
Shit, no.
Is there?
Don't even grok, man. Open secret. Maple AI, all private encrypted in the cloud. T.
But no, I think it's good to like switch the conversation into the why are we talking about so much solar? And it's like a solar only conversation, or which kind of goes to the maxi notion. And nothing wrong with maxi notion. I think what's, at least for the time being, and this is going to carry on for years. This isn't about like next year only. The notion that there's one technology that's going to save us and it's the silver bullet is not true.
Yeah.
This is a 1,000 lead bullets. I think it's Andreessen Horowitz who said that. Like, there's no silver bullet solutions in many of these things in life. You just have to go at it with everything you got.
I think they also said there's an Ethereum solution too.
So and we'll talk about that, right? I focus on solar and solar-enabled technologies. Like that's where I put my dedication and attention to, because I believe it's got the learning curve. It's got a long tail. It's still early days.
Right.
I can make an impact in the community I live. The customers I help are real people. They run real businesses, and they run essential services. They run critical infrastructure. And
energy is the backbone of everything.
Energy is needed for growth. They need it for reliability. They need it for reducing their cost of operation. They're extending their hours of operation. They need more. And solar-enabled microgrids is a very compelling solution.
Yep.
So I focus on solar.
Right.
I don't hate on natural gas or nuclear or SMRs or Godspeed. Go do it, get it all. And at the moment, actually, I am looking at a lot of natural gas in California as well. Right?
I also want to be clear. I say some of this stuff tongue in cheek. Like I'm also in all of the above. Like I think solar is going to dominate on cost, but it doesn't mean like if you're in an area like for a period of time you need nat gas, or maybe you're in Iceland and geothermal is just so cheap. Okay, cool. And if you're in Iceland, use geothermal.
And that's the thing. Like this sort of goes to the geography conversation. Right? Depending on your geography and your network, different solutions might make sense.
Yeah.
Right. For us here, like at the moment, solar battery is a pretty compelling solution to continue evolving and finding a way for it to make sense from utilization, from deployment, from helping solve a problem. And thankfully, I think we're bending the curve of like getting off of the incentives and the things that force solar to be sold to people.
Yeah.
To it becoming a solution that's being bought by people.
Yeah, it's just cheaper.
And we are this trend is happening. Like I'm seeing it in the conversations with my customers. I'm seeing it in the industry. Like people our age especially are like, yes, finally we can actually go deploy a solution that is being bought. We're not here because we want to promote the next tax credit or the next net energy metering tariff. Like stuff that helped us get here. We're grateful for, we're thankful for. That's how it helped us get commercially viable, compelling solutions. It's time to get off of those and use this technology for what it is, which is to enable this much bigger, longer term growth, away from conservation fears and actually into abundance mindset, into overproduction, into not fearing stranded assets. Because as it is the backbone, like you said, when you have your backbone solved, you can actually plan on growth. You can plan on abundance. And I'm betting on solar as the thing that's going to help actually enable this.
Right.
Not that it's a bet on solar against everything else.
Sure,
but
agreed.
It's a bet on solar. It's the one that can give us the most leverage.
I agree.
I believe.
Yeah. No, I agree with you. And I sometimes, brand myself whatever as a solar maxi, but partially tongue in cheek. But like, I think it's the core of all this. Yeah. But like, look, I'm also very much a free markets guy. Like that case, that's not like abundantly clear. Like if wind is cheaper in your market or even natural gas, like so be it. Like, and I think something else you stressed that I wish more people understood in the energy debate, particularly because I used to have a lot more friends in the sort of environmental or climate movement. I still like a lot of those people. And I do care about climate change. Like I actually think, it's real. It's a giant problem. There's a reason also, by the way, that one of the reasons for the transformer shortage is every summer there's new wildfires, which means, or hurricanes. Turns out we have to replace all those damn transformers now up and down the East Coast. in Acapulco in Mexico, in Malibu. So like,
there's a lot of built environment that has to get rebuilt.
Totally. Yeah. And like every year we just keep losing giant cities, and it's like, well, okay, that's part of it. So anyway, so I mean, I'm very sympathetic to that. But one thing that really frustrates me with a lot of the environmental community is this idea of like, you need to use less. It's like, dude, first of all, like that is such a like, congratulations, you've totally made it. You're not living, in like energy poverty. Yeah. But it's like the whole history of civilization is a history of using more energy. Yeah. Like literally, like instead of using GDP, I think we should just track, well, how many joules has society harnessed, which by the way, so why we're calling our summit the Type I summit. We want to get to a Kardashev scale Type I, harness all of the energy from our star. And it just makes sense. Yeah. And if, ideally we do that in a way without, negative externalities for society, but it's not like there's ever going to be a limit on what we can do with energy. Like there's even today, we're talking about AI and the huge training runs, but there's always going to be more inference we can do. There's going to be new technologies. Quantum, that's going to take energy. Yeah. Robots, that's going to take energy. One day we're going to get off this damn planet and start exploring the stars. We'll probably need nuclear for that, but like there's no shortage. Like there is no top.
So the mindset I share is when you accept that, we have to conserve. Yeah. And where you end up getting to is that you end up regulating for scarcity.
Exactly.
Because you're like, because we got to conserve, now we got to put rules, we got to regulate. And from a top-down decision-making, regulation comes for scarcity mindset.
Exactly.
Versus doing a bottoms-up innovation for abundance.
100%.
And like that's where we got to be. That's the camp that we need to have more believers in. Yeah. That's where the camp of like solar overproduction is actually not a problem. It's a benefit.
There's no such thing as overproduction.
Yeah. And once you actually position yourself in a place like this wastewater plant I just told you about, where we're trying to help them. They've asked for the solution of how do we not use power from PG&E. Right. It's going to take a mix of natgas solar battery. There's going to be like probably a good amount of solar curtailment that we have to do, about 40%. We don't want to send it to the grid. The grid won't pay for it. They don't need it. California's grid doesn't need any more solar. Like, let everybody know this.
Do you know of any distributed resource we get attached that happens to print money with it?
This is the thing, right? Like this is where we are getting to. This is when I saw Bitcoin mining. Yeah. As like
we're jumping into Bitcoin, ladies and gentlemen.
This is our segue to Bitcoin. This is when I saw Bitcoin mining as an energy play. Right. I was like, holy shit! Hold on a second. Yeah. There's a thing that I can plug into the load center. Yeah. That I can turn it on and off. And it can soak up any excess I would have. So I can go create more excess. Right. Because it makes my levelized cost of production cheaper. And this thing will actually pay for that electricity. And it doesn't need like uptime, downtime. It doesn't need me to like give it like a heads up that you're shutting down. Like it's just like, seconds. Like the moment you see that there is a flexible buyer of electricity and you see the solar overproduction as like a thing that is going to exist.
Overproduction.
Right? That's when you realize that, oh shit, now every like power plant, every commercial building, every operation that is now going to think about self-generation is also going to think about pairing that with a distributed consumer flexible buyer of that generation, because you got to balance it. You're not going to send it to the grid. Right. Not for selfish reasons, but for reliability reasons. Yep. Like we cannot all be exporting power to the grid. Like that, anywhere after 5-10% grid penetration, we're done. Right. It doesn't matter where you are. But then you have to like figure out a way to self-consume on site. And that might be to train now data models, right? Like there are companies now building AI training models on a smaller distributed scale, right?
Super cool.
Like that's pretty interesting. Yep. Of course, Bitcoin mining, we've been, talking about this for quite some time. Powering robots, right? I mean, you're going to electrify more stuff, right? Like, is it crazy to think that like
charge your
every
car.
building, like when you charge your car, it's like charging a robot, right? Like it's the next thing. It's like at these times, I'm going to have excess solar or more electricity than I can use for my building. So I will generate load.
It's responsive. It's like instead of demand response, it's a supply response. It's like you're literally just like, I need more load on demand.
You once you get that mindset of like, oh, okay, I can actually do more now. Yep. I don't have to worry about how much electricity I use. I have to worry about how much more I could be using. Yep. And you're free to think that way. Yep. Without the guilt of where is it going to come from? And am I like straining the grid? Am I harming the environment? Like, no, you are generating your own power and you have essentially free surplus excess electricity to put it into a use that you can utilize, whatever it might be. Your brand of choice might be Bitcoin mining, or it might be AI training, or it might be powering your car or your robot that will do your whatever chore for you.
Yeah.
Like that is the world we're heading into.
Yeah.
And that's enabled by solar. So that's why I focus on solar.
And you know, all I can think about is who wouldn't want their own money printer? Money printer go burr. You'll just plug that in. You know?
So I mean, we're getting there, right? That's the other trend that's like, sometimes it's scary. You're like, oh man, shit. Bitcoiners have been right. You know, it's like, it's kind of crazy.
Yeah, I know.
And it's kind of crazy to have been on this train for some time now. I'm like, shit, what if you're actually right?
Yeah.
Right? I mean, it's kind of scary, but it's like,
well, why scary?
I mean, the level of I'll tell you why it's scary. I have friends that I see the oh shit factor in their minds, and they're like from TradFi world.
Yeah.
And you know, now Bitcoin has been around long enough in the people's radar, and you know, it's gone through its like tulip bubble a few times that people have stopped believing the tulip bubble story. Like that doesn't come up anymore, right?
Yeah.
2013, 2017, 2020. And you know, like I've had enough years with my friends about these conversations that like they're like now realizing that, oh shit, like BlackRock's behind this now, right? Like Big Daddy is behind it. It's not.
Once BlackRock's scary, it's not going away.
it's not just like, you know, your one buddy who is into it.
Unless your buddy happens to be Larry Fink.
I mean, exactly, right? Like the person you work for, right? And I'm seeing not mentality, like opinions aren't changing. People that are our age, TradFi, have held on this belief that this thing is like insane and not right and it's a gamble, whatever. They're seeing the fear of like, oh shit, you know, what if it's actually right?
Yeah.
And they don't want to switch over still. And I think the resistance against it is going to probably actually build up more.
Yeah.
No, it's kind of like this, you know, the chart that you see on the Twitters, like it shows like the
curve,
the low IQ person, the high IQ person, the smart person in the middle, right? Yeah. Like the bulk of the people
can't do that.
The bulk of the people that are smart or average, you know, whatever, they're here and they're still not buying it, right?
Yeah.
You know, we happen to be on the one side, the low IQ or the high IQ. I'm not sure, but
depends on the day.
Depends on the day. Yeah. But it's I've seen the fear, the concern of like, oh shit.
Yeah.
Yeah, what is money and why is Bitcoin still a thing?
Yeah.
And how has it not gone down? And was it wrong? No, I'm not wrong. Like there's something else wrong. And there's almost like a violence inside that I see in people that it does concern me. I'm like, these are, you know, my friends are examples of many other people that we hope to see and to realize and make a, you know, sound decision with their investment choices, and you know, the longer this train goes, if it happens to be in this same trend or even, you know, even a minor, you know, uptick on this curve, on this trend, I don't know what it's gonna do. Like,
well, I mean, one thing that I have to say about that is I actually I agree with you, and it's very interesting. Have you read Why the Yuppie Elite Dismissed Bitcoin? It's a fabulous paper. This guy, Jesse, back, he used to go by Croesus. The TLDR is like, to really get grok Bitcoin, there's an axis, and one side of the axis is, you know, intelligence. You need to be smart to grok a lot of this stuff. The other is like, how much do you trust in the system? And it matches up so well with my experience. Like my friends from more traditional TradFi type world still don't get it. They're smart, but like that kind of forces like questioning, like, wait, what if the whole system I've contributed to is a scam in a sense? But my friends from Mexico got like that because none of them ever trust their government. None of them ever trust their currencies. My friends from Argentina and Venezuela, like, well, of course, like the currency's going to inflate, right? Anyways, so one thing that I'm excited about is even if individuals don't make that decision, seeing more pension funds, institutions through energy infrastructure. Like, you know, is there a way to kind of like, hey, you may not know it, but maybe one day the Tesla solar panels you put on your roof have an ASIC embedded in the inverter, and you're just like, you don't know what's going on, but you know, you just like, you're benefiting from this kind of Bitcoin dividend yield. So it's like invisible, you know? That's the way I think we have to do it.
Well, like just, it's baked in. It's part of the lease structure of the panel. People don't have to worry about it and, you know, set up their own node or whatever. I think those are very much possibilities. And again, just like solar, I feel it's still very much early days too.
It's even earlier than solar.
But there's like an interesting dichotomy, right? There's like data centers, right? That were like the topic of like where Bitcoin mining could happen, distributed mining versus data center. And then AI came.
Oh, yeah.
And all of a sudden we have like the two spectrum of buyers of electricity, right?
Mm-hmm.
We have AI data centers, which are the best buyer of electricity. The highest price goes to AI data centers right now, right? They will pay any money.
Without a doubt.
Right? Yeah. Maybe retail California electricity buyers are the first, right? Because they pay like 40, 50 cents. But
because the mafia, the utility tells us what we pay.
But like you can't go to the free market side of it. Like AI data centers are the best, most expensive premium buyers of electricity. If you have power to generate and you can sell it to somebody, go to an AI data center.
Agreed.
And then on the opposite end of it, the worst buyer of electricity, right?
Well, depending on your framing.
I guess the worst buyer of electricity is stranded electricity. You can't sell it to anybody.
Yeah.
The next worst buyer of electricity is a Bitcoin miner because it buys the thing that nobody else wants to buy, right?
It's the bottom feeder.
It's a bottom feeder. And that's by design. And there's a lot of beauty in Bitcoin mining being the bottom feeder, the second worst buyer of electricity after nobody else wants it. It's like you're at an auction. Can I get a penny? No? Okay. Bitcoin miner comes in and buys it.
Come on in. Yeah, exactly.
It's like that's what Bitcoin mining is. And people still haven't connected two dots on that one either. But yeah, between these two spectrums, there's a lot of opportunity for, figuring out how to, plan and power your grid.
Yep.
And, either alongside with the grid or off the grid, where you don't have to worry about overgeneration and oversupply of electrical equipment because there is buyers of electricity on every range.
I love it.
And I think that is like Bitcoin miners actually kind of showed the way of like, hey, you can build generation, don't worry about it. And also an AI came, say, hold my beer, I want all that power.
Wait,
the game shifted a lot.
Yeah.
But it's still true. But Bitcoin miners are still the cheapest buyer. And they create opportunity for power generation.
And it's funny because, everyone used to bitch about Bitcoin electricity usage. No. Now that AI is just like, hold my beer, everyone's like, well, I guess it's pretty small compared to that,
Yeah, and everybody's using some AI tool, so they're happy for this to exist, right? They're not going to complain much.
Exactly. So I want to talk about two things on the Bitcoin energy side. Yeah. So one thing is, while we're on the subject of Bitcoin usage, some folks know back in 2021, that I basically I was the lead author in this paper, Bitcoin's Key to a Clean Energy Abundant Future with Block and ARK Invest, and sort of laid out some of this thesis as, hey, Bitcoin's the buyer of last resort. You can use it to, either overbuild solar, wind, storage, combos, or, potentially use it as a temporary load until you have another buyer. So maybe for the first 4 years, you're using Bitcoin miners to kind of subsidize the cost a bit. And then maybe you build a green hydrogen plant one day or an AI data center, whatever. Now, in that time, you gave me you and the Satoshi guys are the ones who gave me the most information and helped me really get to the point where I could put that out. And so I've always really admired your thinking on this. You've seen far ahead the curve. My first question to you though is like, why hasn't this happened much yet?
Yeah.
Either as just like off-grid solar farms with depreciated old miners. And just so the audience understands, if you have a new miner that's super expensive, you got the like latest and greatest from Bitmain or whatever, like you want that thing 24/7. So if you have to do solar plus batteries, maybe it's too expensive. But if you have an old depreciated one that's like essentially free, you can just mine with solar no storage. So why hasn't that happened? Or why haven't we seen people using Bitcoin miners as that temporary buyer while they wait to finance or find a much bigger off-taker? Because that was like 5+ years ago. Like what? Well, I think we're right, but like, why haven't I seen it?
Yeah, we are right on physics and call it Excel spreadsheet math of it, the model of it.
Yeah.
When you get to the real world, the disconnect exists in the talent set, the skill set, the trust in, will this make a financially compelling case, right?
Yeah.
Like an analog to this would be early days of geothermal development. They struggle a lot, that industry, because they had to combine the infrastructure, the risk-taking of drilling that came from like oil and gas, like go drill a hole, get to like some well that has enough temperature gradient that you can run water through it, to the world of power development, like independent power production, right? And the people that had that skill set in as an IPP, in the independent power producer, they all came from like gas power plants, pretty much. Like, a lot of gas power developers learned how to file for interconnection, do land siting, get a deal, to get your power purchase through an agreement. The oil drilling people knew how to drill, but they couldn't connect to this side. So they're missing, there's two different talent sets that have to come together.
Got it.
We are seeing it right now, actually, with the SMR people as well.
The nuclear
people. Yeah. They're like, they know the science and how to build like a nuclear reactor. They're working on it. It's 10 years away, depending on who you believe. Well,
it's always 10 years away.
Always 10 years away. But in order for that thing to work, you actually have to like get it interconnected to the grid, right? And so you have to understand the interconnection game, filing, queue, permitting, yada, yada, power purchase agreement. Like there's like a whole development side of it that there's a skill set missing, that you have to bring those two together. What I saw with, solar plus Bitcoin mining development at the large scale is the risk that capital is willing to take was not willing to get educated on the benefit and the solution of Bitcoin mining could operate and provide in the near term. So while you can model and show that you can take a 2-year risk and start up your plan sooner, deploy your capital, mine Bitcoin with it, get some money now, wait for the interconnection, because the biggest portion of the deal is tied to when I get a grid connection, I can sell my power for 30 years. I can discount cash flow that, and people believe those spreadsheets, even though it's nothing. It's literally just like modeling of like, what will power markets look like for 30 years from now? Put in a spreadsheet, and this is what we've all done. And you pay a consultant that tells you this is the curve that we're forecasting.
Oh, great.
Like, this is literally how it works. Like, people pay consultants.
I hope it's IEA approved, because those guys are always right.
Exactly, right? Those capital investors that put money behind new projects, they have more trust in, we'll wait this out until we get our interconnection, because that's like the gating function of, will my project actually materialize?
Yeah.
I'll get my interconnection, get my land permit, get my PPA from some off-taker. If I have to wait 4 years, I'll wait 4 years. My money's in the bank collecting 6%, whatever, interest, versus moving forward now, maybe getting a higher ROI, but I'm taking on a lot more risk. What if I build it and the Bitcoin miners don't work? What if it's a scam? What if it's a thing for criminals? What if I don't get my grid interconnection after all of this, even if it works? For how much more upside?
Yeah.
So the juice wasn't worth the squeeze, and the amount of like education, training, risk taking, what I saw in the capital side, wasn't gonna make it happen.
Got it.
Where things have evolved to, and I see this being the next uptake, is actually more on the residential side, like overbuilding on rooftops for homes, because there is a compelling belief that we will electrify a lot in homes, right? We will electrify heating, cooling, ovens, cars, right? Like, you name it, we're gonna plug more stuff in.
Yep.
And there's enough now trust and network effect of, oh, my neighbor has solar, it's good for them,
right?
But it'll be good for me. And then, now you can actually go and overbuild the solar, cover the whole roof. It's actually much nicer looking.
Yeah.
But do that in anticipation of future load growth. In that model, there is a actually very interesting scenario where you can over provision the roof, mine Bitcoin with it for a few years until that homeowner electrifies and wants to put in the next thing.
And does that model assume depreciated, like old school S19 miners, like the cheap chips, or
I think you always want to go like one generation before to get the best deal.
Yeah.
Like, as soon as like the next generation comes out, it's like old iPhones.
Yeah.
They're a lot cheaper.
Yeah.
So that's...
Why haven't we seen this thing? Because I know we've been talking about this a little bit. Like, it makes a lot of sense. I mean, I don't know if it exactly pencils. Maybe it's one of those things where it will in 6 months or whatever. Where do you think we are from seeing that business model work?
But there are deployments of this type.
Okay.
And how has it not scaled is because we are also stymied by the industry of residential solar in the US, which is like right now, you don't want to touch solar at the residential scale, because
all these companies went out of business in the last year.
I mean,
right? What happened there? Wow. How is that solar is killing it? All the resi companies went out of business.
And many are going to go out of business come January 1, 2026. There will be a lot of bankruptcies. So solar has been supported by investment tax credit, right, for many, many years now. And that show is coming to an end. And residential solar investment tax credit comes to an end of this year. Right now, every homeowner is getting a million phone calls from every solar lead generator. Do you want solar? It's about to run out. Yeah, you can get your tax write-off, blah, blah, blah. Like,
Yep.
I'm getting phone calls from people that know I'm in solar. They're like, hey, Ali, is this something you do? I'm like, no, I don't.
Yeah.
And like, but I help them to figure it out because there's like so many like shady deals out there too, man.
I'm sure.
So we are, solar residential scale itself is right now going through its own moment.
Yep.
I think what will happen is once we run out of this phase and we get off of the investment tax credit and we can look forward to the long tail of solar post incentives, we will start to see more creative solar deployments that goes along this side of, let's now utilize solar for what it's for, energy offset and enabling electrification.
Yeah.
So I think just like many other things, the ideas have not been wrong. They've just been early.
Yeah.
And often enough when you're early, you're wrong. So you just have to wait your time.
Does something like Proto from Block help this? Because now you have like more sort of modular chip that you can
I hope
build
so.
something
Yeah, you
that.
can like have the box, put it there, supply change out the chips, make it easier.
Yeah.
I think innovations like that will be great because then you can now essentially it's like a filter in your HVAC. Like people know how to change the filter of their HVAC.
Simple, yeah.
Like Proto is kind of doing that for mining.
Okay, so
Part two.
We're still talking about Bitcoin. Last couple questions on that, and then I want to jump back to some of the crazy grid stuff,
okay,
and we can call it a wrap. On the Bitcoin side, last two questions for you. So we talked a lot about why the mining thing hasn't fully materialized yet. We think early, it's coming. More philosophical question around Bitcoin for you. Increasingly over the years, and I think the Satoshi guys first got me to start seeing it this way, and I would modify their definition a bit, but they started calling Bitcoin energy-backed money. And that was a eureka moment for me because then I started realizing, oh shit, Buckminster Fuller, Tesla, Edison, Ford, all these people basically effectively said there's one currency in the known universe, it's joules. Everything we've ever used, gold, effectively, that's an energy-backed currency to dig it up.
Yeah.
You could argue the dollar backed by, both the sort of petro system and also the Navy, which is effectively a form of energy or power.
Yeah.
And increasingly, I'm starting to see, modifying maybe Satoshi's definition a bit from energy-backed money to power-backed money, which is to say it's not exactly the energy that matters as much, but we're in this transition of, nouns to verbs. And it's the power and the ability to put electrons in and off that matters more than the actual electron itself. Anyways, and if you think about what's actually backing the Bitcoin network, it's not like I can go to you and say, well, there's a certain amount of energy, although maybe one day we'll be able to say that. I'm curious your view on it. But it's a network of, well, at any one moment, this is the total amount of power on that network. Right now, I think it's 1 zeta hash or about 1 zeta hash, which is a huge deal. I forget what that is in terawatt hours, but I believe, or terawatts rather, or gigawatts. We're not terawatt scale yet. But that's, I think, something like 1% of all world electricity, something like that. Anyways, what is your view? Do you agree with this idea that Bitcoin is energy-backed money? Would you modify it at all? Or how do you think about that?
So this kind of goes to the geography conversation again for me and the network effect of it. You touched on Ethereum as a joke and a ding there.
Oh, careful.
And I think this goes to also the Maxi conversation, right? Again, I'm so focused on Bitcoin.
Right.
I get it, I understand it. The energy connection is why I had the aha moment of like, oh, it's not blockchain and it's not this or that. It's actually like the energy conversion into this Bitcoin mining process that matters. And that's why, as being in the energy space, the Bitcoin makes sense to me. And I've grokked it. But the notion that Bitcoin is energy-backed money, yes, we do need energy for the nodes to run and for the machines to run and, to do this guessing game. It needs energy to operate. But truly, the reason why Bitcoin is secured and its security spend, its defense fund, whatever people call it, as terminologies we use, is actually that we choose to believe the story of Bitcoin.
Sure.
It's the people. It's a network effect, right? Just like, the US dollar or the currency of whatever country is believed by the people in that country, right?
There's always the belief element.
You have to have the belief element of like, this is the currency we believe in and this is the utilization we want out of it and we trust it, right? We have trust in the US dollar. That's why we've used it. And then globally, people put trust in the US dollar. That's why it became the reserve currency. But if you don't have the trust in Bitcoin and in Bitcoin operations and Bitcoin code and, the development that's happening, we actually don't have any security behind Bitcoin. So for me, the security spent on Bitcoin is actually the work that people like Troy Cross do, educating people, helping the masses believe and come on board. Energy is just an input, just like energy is input to a data center.
Sure.
Like, what's ChatGPT? It's energy-backed training models.
Well, and I guess this kind of gets to my point. In fact, I have perhaps a little alpha drop, a future essay I want to rewrite. I recently read, I think it was James McGinnis's essay, The Age of the Electron, and that's great. But I actually would take that a little bit further and think of it as the age of the photon. Because if you think about it, really, and it's kind of funny. This is a bit more esoteric, but there's a reason.
That's where it comes from, and that's how you get the electron. Yeah.
Well, there's a reason we've always had sun cults and worship the sun.
Yeah.
Like I think people are now waking up to realize literally everything is photons. We're taking photons and we're converting it into intelligence with AI, into electricity to power all of our devices with solar, and into food. That's photosynthesis. And into capital with Bitcoin. And so for me, it's like there really is until we've mastered the sun and then we can move on, like there's a reason we've always worshiped this like grand gift, just showering us with free. And it's interesting because I'm a huge free markets guy in a lot of ways, but this is a gift.
Yeah.
It is a gift from a star giving us this magical element. And by the way, I think I heard this on a podcast at some point talking about rebranding solar panels as quantum converters. Great idea. Like this is a magical technology that literally allows us to take this abundant free gift and literally everything, and even our bodies matter. Everything is a vibration. It's all energy.
Yeah. I know. Isn't that beautiful?
It's beautiful. Yeah.
I mean, I think when you like zoom out and understand where you are in the universe, right?
Yeah.
And how it all comes together and how we count number of years we age, right? Like, it's a trip around the sun.
Around the sun.
Yeah.
It's all the sun.
Like, it's kind of crazy. We are on this rock, floating in the universe, going around another ball of fire.
That's right.
And we call it a year. And that's life.
And what Buckminster Fuller called our rock was a spaceship Earth.
Yeah.
We're literally astronauts going around a ball of fire.
Yeah.
It's beautiful.
I know.
This is where we need the whiskey.
I told you, we need whiskey for this conversation.
Whiskey or solar-powered hydroponics, we said. But okay, so one last question on Bitcoin, and then we'll jump back to the grid. Last question on Bitcoin for me is, where else do you see the opportunity for Bitcoin and the energy industry to work together? So obviously, we talked about miners. You're very focused on that. Some of the other areas I've seen, Sonoda and Satoshi Energy are both thinking about settlement. I think you are as well, using Bitcoin and Lightning as instant settlement for reducing some of the credit risk for things like miners. That's cool. What about other things? Like I've been thinking about, could you see opportunity for Bitcoin being used as collateral to help finance some of these riskier projects that might not otherwise get built? Could you see opportunities for, I'm sure Saylor will end up doing this as well, but a new, since treasury companies, I don't know if they're all bust yet, but they were in vogue a minute ago, some infrastructure fund where it's like, we do infrastructure, but we're also pitching the orange-pilled manager at the infrastructure fund. They want some kicker with Bitcoin in there. I haven't really seen anyone play that yet. What other opportunities do you see?
I don't know if I am well-versed enough on the capital side. From a capital side, I think we're still living in the era where there is just a lot of money sitting around.
Yeah.
And like Bitcoin-backed lending is a lot more expensive than a convertible note.
Yeah.
Like you're starting a company, you can go raise a few $1,000,000 on a convertible note.
If you're in
8% interest.
Yeah.
That's it. You want to do it Bitcoin backed and go through the whole, somebody puts their stash up and you get like some interest on it. It's usually around, low teens these days still. It's early days. Maybe at some point down the line when the Bitcoin story is more permeated, it might make sense. But the near term place, and this comes back to energy for me, and this is the space I follow. I'm not active in it, but it's in waste heat.
Yeah.
Like and thinking about it one way or the other, like either you're powering, you get heat and you get Bitcoin for free, right? Or, you're powering Bitcoin miner, you get the heat for free and that offsets your heat somewhere else. It's heat reuse. However you think about it, there's an awesome story there.
Yeah,
and
I agree.
I equate it to, in the solar industry, there's still a thing called renewable energy certificates, like RECs.
Those are still around?
Oh yeah, they're still around. Oh yeah.
Okay.
You produce, a megawatt hour of, good old fashioned electricity. You get money for it, or it offsets your usage, whatever. Then you also create this abstract fictional certificate that somebody else
on
pays
a
you
blockchain.
for it on a government controlled blockchain. No, that's what it is.
A private blockchain.
Dude, RECs are registered with an agency that we all trust in.
Yeah.
And they track it to your source and they settle it to somebody else who paid you money for it. Like there's a middle person, right?
Yeah, of course.
The first use case of blockchain, I was like, oh my God, we can like redo all these RECs, but what a story. You could literally do that, but there's not enough value there.
Right.
But RECs are a fictional abstract certificate that somebody else pays for to get the rights to your solar power, and there's money tied for it. So I equate if you use a Bitcoin miner to heat your home, then you also get these, certificates, which are called Bitcoin, and we should just like market it. And that's revenue for it. And you don't have to sell it to somebody. The network buys it from you, and
that's cool.
And you can get cash for it, if you like, or stash, Bitcoin up. So the waste heat or the heat reuse side of it, I'm very excited about. In-home heating, industrial side. There was for a moment, I think, a project in Vancouver, British Columbia, about like district heating too with it. Which, I think you put enough engineers, they'll get it. They will grok the fact that, oh man, we can do this. In the industrial side, there's actually a concept for like trying to kill excess power and load modulate. There are devices that are like resistors, like load banks that people bring to sites because they don't want to curtail, for example, a generator from going down much. They want to run generators steady. And they bring load banks to a site that essentially sucks in, power in order to let the generator run steady.
And they're getting nothing.
They're getting nothing. They're just getting waste heat and noise, right?
They're getting negative nothing.
You can put. I had the operations manager of a wastewater treatment plant in California tell me, "Oh man, 10 years ago we had this whole problem. We had to bring load banks in. I wish I had Bitcoin miners."
Yeah.
Like this is like some engineer telling me this. So like they realizing that, oh shit, Bitcoin mining is just consuming electricity. And it pays you for the electricity you give it.
I love it. Yeah, I mean, I think your point is very well taken that, you've got the high end data center consumers and then the bottom feeders. But that's, it gets something that I think Drew Bansel mentioned a long time ago, one of his talks on Bitcoin energy that stuck with me, which I had never been able to find this, but I think there were studies in this sort of Austrian school of economics where the gold bugs were trying to answer this question of what percentage of world GDP or what percentage of the monetary supply is necessary to secure the monetary supply. Yeah. And I think that's something we're having an empirical answer to in our lifetime. Once Bitcoin fully monetizes, maybe in a decade, 2 decades out, where there will always be some slight adjustments, but maybe it's like, 2% of all energy produced or 1%, whatever it ends up being, maybe it's 10%, I don't know, is necessary to secure the monetary supply. That's the bottom feeder. And then any more productive use society comes up with, great.
Yeah.
Let's do that.
Yeah.
So anyways.
True. And in the Bitcoin side, look, we should hold ourselves accountable and like do this checks and balances. Like, why hasn't this happened? Why hasn't that happened? There's also been stories that, it's worth second thinking about. I think Brandon, who wrote a great essay on Bitcoin as a pioneer species, right? About if you deploy Bitcoin mining, it will create civilization and growth around it.
Yeah, I think that's makes sense. Or data centers first is what I'm leaning more towards. But
but
either idea.
It's like but you in theory it sounds like quite well. And you're like, oh yeah, if you go and start infrastructure on Bitcoin mining, then Bitcoin mining can go away and people can use that load. And I think Saylor also evangelized that a lot. But we also haven't seen that happen, right? Yeah. What we have seen happen by and large, like most of Bitcoin mining deployments has been in the earlier days was like, once we got off of the GPUs and came to ASICs, go find the cheapest power. And people found like, coal plants, wherever they could get it in China, Kazakhstan, wherever they could get it, they did it, right?
Free dorm room subsidized electricity.
Yeah. Mosques in Iran were mining Bitcoin because they had free electricity.
Because it was subsidized by the Iranian government?
Yeah, like mosques had free electricity. So people in mosques were mining Bitcoin. Like that happened, right?
All right. Smart.
Yeah, shout out to mosques in Iran.
Yeah.
When I heard that story, I was like, oh man.
Yeah, that's not going to go well in the US.
This is the really fun part about Bitcoin. Like, I worked in solar actively for many, many years, and my network stayed in California mostly, a little bit in the US. But once I got into Bitcoin and Bitcoin mining, my network went global.
Yeah.
Like I'm connected to people like New Zealand, Australia, Middle East. Like
Everywhere.
I've had conversations with people in Israel, and we're having like Bitcoin mining solar conversation. Like, Portugal, like anywhere. Right? We have, friends down in Africa doing this kind of stuff. So like, the network went global, just like the network, which is really fun. And yeah, the day that like it hit like, oh man, a mosque in Iran, like where I was born, I was like, it's doing this. I was like, oh man, this is just too good.
This is crazy.
This is just too crazy.
Yeah.
But anyway, so like a lot of Bitcoin miners went to where they could get free electricity, cheap electricity. That was like, the under the radar phase of it gave us a lot of bad rap, but that's how it is, right? Like if you can abuse the system, Bitcoin showed us there's a lot of waste in electricity availability. Let's go fix it.
It highlights the inefficiencies.
Yeah, and that's why I say it holds a mirror to society, shows us, like this free electricity to this consumer is actually a bad idea because they could abuse it. So let's be smarter about it. So Bitcoin showed that, but mining happened there. The next wave of mining was a lot that happened in Texas, which is a lot of stranded renewables in West Texas. There's no load there. They couldn't get to East Texas. So a lot of miners are doing work there. So they're not creating new civilization. They're just taking stranded assets.
Yeah.
And that has been a lot of the Bitcoin mining. It's been go after stranded areas like towns that don't have any more need for the smelter or whatever it was and repower that, right? Mm-hmm. It creates jobs. So maybe there's a bit of, civilization growth story there. But it's all gone towards places where there was already something there and it helped revitalize that or utilize that. What we haven't quite seen yet is, can Bitcoin purely go somewhere and create that, civilization, that growth? And that's what I think about now. I'm like, is Bitcoin mining what's going to be the pioneer species? Or is it the demand for electrification with a belief that it can be powered by solar?
Yes.
And then you add on mining as like the load stabilizer side of it.
I think it's that. And okay, this is a perfect transition back to talking about some of the grid ideas. So, in my essay, talking about the new grid, the thesis is you build these giant off-grid sites. Maybe it's a gigawatt, then it becomes 10 gigawatts. Maybe one day it's a terawatt, thanks to Elon. Yeah. But like, even though, and this is why I was really kind of, really trying to drill into the details on the transmission distribution cost. Even if transmission distribution is expensive, I think in a free market, it can be a lot cheaper. And there's always benefits to being in a network, right? Like if you're totally off grid, like maybe it's cheaper in the short run, but in theory, I mean, Buckminster Fuller had this idea of the intercontinental grid. Even if you don't go to that scale, I mean, you talked about microgrids, right? It always makes sense to be able to have some partners to cooperate and trade with because you don't know when, your stuff's going to go out and their stuff's going to scale and blah, blah. So one of my sort of fantasies or ideas around all this stuff is not that we build microgrids, but more like macrogrids, like these massive data centers as the hub. So maybe it's a multi-gigawatt data center plus solar and storage project. But solar and storage, one thing that's underappreciated, it's because it's modular, you can always add. It's not like a nuclear plant or like a coal plant where it's like you build it once and if you miss size, tough shit. Yeah. Here, it's like, okay, now we can have more solar, we can have more batteries. Maybe Bitcoin plays a role as a piece of that. But I'm increasingly seeing like, the possibility for all these off-grid data centers to be the hubs, which then connect into, instead of microgrids, macrogrids, which are still off-grid. And then one day, my sort of like just intuition about how this is going to play out is those macrogrids will get big enough and powerful enough that the utilities, as their prices are rising for anyone that doesn't unplug and go to these new spots, then all of a sudden they're going to say, well, shit, can I plug back into the macrogrid? And that's how we all reconnect. Yeah. What's your take on that?
So as you're describing that, again, I try to go to an analog of how else in human history have we done things like this. And transit-oriented development comes to my mind, right?
Like railroads.
Railroads, right? Yeah. Like if you built a road or intersection of roads somewhere and you enabled transportation of people from A to B and here to there, at those intersections, civilization came to be. People built homes there, hotels there, a bar, a restaurant, and next thing you know, like a town grows because of that. And conversely, you remove those roads or build a bigger road on this side, this one gets abandoned, right? Like when the interstate came in, all the Road 66 stuff, went away.
Dead, yeah.
So I think there is something to that where it's like, can a terawatt scale data center get plugged in you have to generate power, and then you might end up having too much power. You might want to send it around, and then there's like a smaller buyer comes next to you and something grows from there. I think it's plausible.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I think we could see that be the essentially the load center is like the place people go to work, and they want homes near it, and then more homes need more power, and you gotta build a grid around all of that.
And especially if, the work of the future is mostly going to be AI anyway, right? Or a lot of it's going to be done by AI. It makes sense that those, maybe your original 1 gigawatt data center scales to 10 gigawatt. Like the data centers keep scaling, and then, as power becomes cheaper there and there's more reliable services, and now there's fiber because you need to connect that in. Maybe for humans, it becomes a little bit more hospitable. But to be clear, I think that's a long-term. But by the way, while we're on that subject, do you, to kind of revisit that transmission distribution point, do you think it's always better or usually better, even if T&D costs are much higher than generation costs, to have that flexibility of a grid or even a macrogrid, like even other buyers, microgrid, macrogrid, whatever? Or do you think that maybe the data centers are just like, no, this is all we care about is our compute. We don't want to interconnect with other people. We're just going to build for ourselves.
I don't know. I don't think data centers will want to be like grid disconnected.
Yeah.
I think.
But that may be their only option the next 5 years, to be clear.
For now, yeah. But I think they're all wanting to get the grid connection. To be tied to it.
Yeah.
Because I think there is when you get to that level of scale, like power generation and the ability to get the power. If you're thinking about solar, for example, you need a lot of land. They may not all get the land, right? So I think it would be a tall order to say every data center will be like on their own little macro grid. I think you'll see a bunch of like 100, 500 megawatt data centers that will want the grid connection. And because for them, it will be cheaper to just still buy power from the grid. And you'll go through that process for it. So, I'm sure some will be done. Probably Elon might do his own thing.
Yeah, of course. It's Elon.
Everybody else will probably figure out a way to play with the grid and be flexible with it. The smaller scale, what we are seeing is like a lot of water agencies in California, in order to solve their water supply problem, right? To have steady supply of clean water available, they're running, reverse osmosis plants.
Oh, interesting.
And those are very high energy dense buildings.
Yeah, you can use solar for that.
Like on a per square foot basis of a building that runs reverse osmosis versus a data center, the RO building is 500 times more energy intense.
Wow.
Than AI GPUs.
That's crazy. Wow.
And a lot of water agencies around, I'm sure everywhere else in the world too that has like water supply problems are doing that, but this is happening in California itself. And grid connecting these plants that are not like that huge, but some might need anywhere from 1 to 5 megawatt of grid connection is actually a problem. Like they're struggling to get that connection to the grid. So we are working in collaboration with the utilities and with these RO plants to figure out how can we do a flexible interconnection setup. So you don't actually size the connection for like the peak load, but take into account that the RO plant is going to have a battery for sure. It will probably have some gas generators. And if they have land, they will do solar. They don't actually need 24/7 fixed capacity of 5 megawatts. It can actually fluctuate. But can we design around that so that on the utility side, they do what they need to support this flexible interconnection by taking into account the fact that there's behind the meter solar, battery, natgas generator that can help support and orchestrate this interconnection. So that is one area where I think the next grid will have to get built with these sort of synergies in mind. Grid disconnect is like tough for much bigger loads. You can do a home, you can do like, a cabin, but big infrastructure, I think you're going to want to play well together, but it has to make sense going forward. Like this infrastructure cost has to be more reasonable. And the grid operators, the grid developers, planners need to also take into account the loads that are coming on and the generation that's tied to them.
Yeah, totally. I generally agree with you on but to your point, there will be crazy players. Elon, probably most notable. Let's just say for a minute, he wants to build 1 terawatt.
Yeah.
And it's a 1 terawatt data center, primarily solar and storage, maybe a little bit of nat gas. West Texas jumps out as one of the first places you would think about doing that for the nat gas. And I was doing some just like back of the envelope calculations. I think you would need about 600,000 acres, like huge fucking amount of land. So it's also hard to get that much contiguous land if it needs to be contiguous, or at least close enough. If you were just like, you were given this like, hey, you're Elon, you have to figure this out challenge, where would you even start to think about being able to do that? I mean, one idea that I had, 2 ideas. One is, if it's too hard to do in the US, if you really want the grid interconnection, you could consider doing this in their country, you know, Mexico, El Salvador, and Honduras. You know, obviously there's challenges there around financing and potential dictators and whatnot, but maybe they'd be willing to play ball. I've thought about maybe trying to set this up on like reservations, native lands, because obviously those are technically sovereign nations and have a lot more leeway. But they can also then, because of that, potentially fuck you a lot more easily than you could in
it's tough. Like there's the leasing there has a lot of risk that comes with it, for sure.
Exactly. So there's pros and cons. Where if you had to figure out how to build a terawatt, solar storage, a little bit of nat gas, where would you even start?
I mean, in California, we have tons of that land. Central Valley, we have fossil fuels, we have gas, we have oil. We have tons of space for solar. Like there is space available. Like, it's not. Yes, these are big acreages we're talking about, but there's a lot of underutilized land that is not really livable. The data centers that I was working on last year were actually on Navajo land. And
really? Oh,
they also have their own requirements of like how much sky obstruction you can create, because they praise the sky. That's where they want to make sure there's no like too tall of a building. They didn't want like big nat gas plants, like, but small generators on the ground was okay. So every place has its own.
Was it generally easier to build there? I mean, with these exceptions, or?
I mean, the land is not utilized for anything else, so it was a good use case of the land, and the revenue was meaningful. There are concerns from the developers of like, so we have to put our, because these are sovereign nations. So coming up with a 99-year lease structure that everybody agrees to and shakes hands on and trust is an issue. So there's complexity for sure.
Tricky. One last sci-fi question, and then anything else you want to cover. One thing I've been thinking about is if you wanted to build, I mean, there's still a lot of issues with the transmission and distribution, not only from the cost side, but the regulatory side. I've been starting to look a bit more into wireless energy transfer. Now, Nikola Tesla, the idea of the worldwide, I don't know if it was power system or something like that, like a precursor of the World Wide Web, but for energy, an internet of energy. My understanding is, and there's some people who've been looking at solar and space and data centers. I'm not sure. I'm curious your thoughts on if that will ever pencil. I'm a little skeptical. But I think it was the domain of like DARPA earlier this year. So it's still very like government, military funded. But they were able to set a new world record of basically essentially taking solar, turning it into a laser.
And beam it down.
Yeah, beaming it and then reconverting it to solar. And like even with transmission losses, like still, if solar gets really cheap, that's pretty interesting. Obviously, I wouldn't want to be a bird or something that gets in the way of that laser. Pretty fucked up. But what is your view? Is that like, 10 years away, 20 years away? Is that even worth exploring, or?
Oh man, I'm trying to solve energy generation here on Earth. That is,
and not just in space. You could also do this like from, connecting here to New York.
I mean, one cool version of that I met with the company that I hope they're still doing this was they were selling you extended solar hours of generation.
Cool.
Where they're not beaming power down, but they're reflecting sunlight from like the edges of the sky to your power plant, your solar power plant, so you can get the shoulders that don't get much sun in the morning or in the evening to give you more power. I don't know where they are or how far that's gone, but I was like, oh, that's a cool one. Get beam down sunlight into a power plant. Give you more production hours. That sounded cool.
I'm skeptical on that penciling out yet, but it sounds cool. It sounds
they're betting on, satellites getting cheaper, mirrors, reflection. And then, generate the power on Earth, but just give it more irradiance. So
I love it.
Yeah,
Cool.
I got to follow up with them, see where they are. That was a cool one. But yeah, the beaming power down from the sky, I don't know. That was pretty cool.
Yeah. And what do you think about these ideas of people that are using solar to create like synthetic fuels, like synthetic nat gas, green hydrogens? Are you bullish on that stuff or?
Yeah, is it Terraform?
Yeah, that's Casey Hanna.
So they're doing off-grid solar, direct air capture to essentially create natural gas to inject back into the pipeline. I believe they have claimed that they are getting, their version of LCOE of you can produce essentially nat gas cheaper this way,
already
all the costs in. Yeah. Like
wow.
I think on a 10 megawatt farm with their direct air capture machine and also converting that into nat gas. I actually sent them a tweet about this and I haven't heard back. Producing nat gas that can be cheap is great with direct air capture. Your next problem is you think, electric interconnection is bad.
Yeah, the nat gas.
Try nat gas interconnection.
Yeah, fair enough.
I know of public agencies trying to do, biogas injection to California natural gas grid. And despite like massive incentives that exist, projects are not getting done. It is expensive, high permitting, long delays. So I wonder.
What if you did it off grid?
But what are you going to do with the gas? The gas has to go somewhere.
Well, I'm saying imagine for these giant ass data centers where you're saying you need 20-30% nat gas. Yeah. What if you just say solar is all you need?
Oh, yeah. Like, put it right there.
Yeah, just put it right there. Just store it.
That could work.
That's an interesting idea.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's the alpha, ladies and gentlemen. There's a business model.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, that could be a way to get your baseline generation up.
Yeah.
I like that.
That's a good idea.
Yeah.
We should talk more about that.
We should.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
But we got to tweet back at those guys.
Yeah, exactly.
Like, you didn't answer us, but we have another idea for you.
We've got your business model. Beautiful. Okay, Ali, I know I've kept you here a long time. What else did I not cover? Are there any things, happening in your world, energy, Bitcoin, data centers, stuff that I should be aware of that maybe I'm not, or that you wanted to make sure we cover?
No, I'm just wondering why did it take us so long to get here? It's mostly my fault for for not accepting the invitation to come. This was great.
Yeah. Let's make this a regular occurrence. And it should be before 5 years.
Tell us about your Type I
summit.
Yeah. What's going on there?
Well, cool. So because this is not live streamed, I'll go ahead and announce it because the paper is not out yet.
Okay.
But the Type I summit, super excited. You're going to come November 6th.
Yeah.
Already
on
in?
my calendar. Yeah.
Beautiful. I got you on the website. So that's good. The Type I summit, basically the thesis is kind of what I was laying out. Demand for electricity is going vertical. There is no top. Yeah, maybe. Like to your point, even if the disagreements for most people that are deep in an industry on something, that people that are like serious and actually have some idea of what's happening in an industry, usually just comes down to time frame, right? Because on some level, you were saying, utilities are so nervous. Like, are we going to overbuild? You never overbuild. There's never been one moment in human history when we overbuild. It's like, did I buy Bitcoin at the wrong time? There's never a wrong time if you zoom out, right? It's like now if you bought at the top and then you have to wait another 4 years for the cycle, that kind of sucks. Yeah. Or if you overbuilt and now it's a decade before someone uses it, but like zoom out just a little bit and like there is no top for energy usage. There is no top for Bitcoin price. Like
totally,
there's no top.
Yeah.
And so as those timeframes in theory become more and more compressed, that's what I think is happening. Again, I was just blown away seeing some of the numbers that I saw for some of my portfolio companies where it's just like, holy shit, the demand for AI stuff is real. The electrification of vehicles and everything else, that's real. Heat pumps, that's real. By the way, we had a quantum summit here at PB. One of my biggest takeaways, we had PsiQuantum, which is one of the sort of leading private companies on this, is that they're going to need a fuck ton of electricity too. And they're not live yet. So like I don't mind making these giant ass bets because even if, there's like a mini bubble and just like, with fiber, there's like got a little overbuilt. Okay, Google bought it. And then 20 years later, we need more. Yeah. Or we have Starlink or whatever it is.
No, on a long enough time scale, all of these are right.
Exactly.
Okay. And we should plan for it. We should plan for no top.
100%. And in the meantime, ideally, and the trick as an investor is you don't want to be too early because that's as good as being wrong. But like, now we have more tools in the toolbox, things like Bitcoin miners that can potentially help you monetize until you get to that next stage, right? So anyways, so that's one of my theses. My other thesis is that solar and storage are going to eat most everything else. Yeah. There are exceptions in, specific geographies. And I think one thing that's crazy to me is there are not enough people that are and a third piece is that, more radically free markets for electricity. Like basically my thesis is kind of like along with Bitcoin has kind of opened my eyes towards a lot of things where I look around and I say, well, Why was there such a problem with inflation and monetary creation? Monopoly.
Yeah.
I look at electricity, I'm like, why are costs so high? My view, I mean, yes, there's a lot of specifics, but generally boils down to markets are better than central planning. Same thing for healthcare, same thing for university. Like wherever there's like a government granted monopoly, like everyone ends up getting fucked, even the people that, are trying to do the right thing. And I don't think, I'm not as much, conspiracy, they're trying to get, it's just like, no, like incentives build up and like, turns out markets are real. Like, I think if I could get one idea across to people that I've learned from Bitcoin, particularly those that think, there's like kind of like right wing, whatever. I don't identify with any of that stuff. Like to me, if anything, I've come to appreciate Hayek more, the economist, and seeing that prices are holy. Because think about how crazy it is that we have this magical mechanism where you can take infinite inputs, synthesize it in real time. I mean, is that not a form of artificial intelligence and come up with a price? But when we distort prices, you mess up the whole system. And to me, it's very much, I'm extremely interested in complexity science. I'm extremely interested in sort of Eastern philosophy as well. And this idea that the human mind is powerful, but it's a tool and it's a subset of the whole, the sort of Gödel's incompleteness theorem of like a member of a set is not the whole set, full stop. And so whenever we're like, yes, we can plan better, it's like, no, you can't. Like the intelligence of nature, that is the magic. And the more we lean into that, and I get it, there's always a balance to be struck, because if you go too far that way, like I wouldn't want to be the person that gets steamrolled in the middle. I wouldn't want to be the bug that gets crushed. Like I understand all that. But in general, I feel like the more we can expose the magic of prices to the fundamental backbone of civilization, which is energy, the better off we all are as a society. So the whole thesis of Type I Summit is, how do we find what I'm calling the solar pirates? I was going to say solar cowboys, but it's not just Texas,
I like pirates. So I did a post in January about we are still the pirates.
Oh, you did?
Yeah.
I didn't even see that. Okay, well.
I like solar pirates. That's why,
Black shirt, same color jeans. I'll show you as well. Great minds think alike.
As do ours.
Exactly. Left side of the curve today. But the pirates are these people who are willing and excited, as you said, to take a leap, take a risk, sail the uncharted high seas. And I think it's just going to be really fucking fun. And so my goal is, how do we get together the most forward-looking, risk-on solar pirate developers, financiers, people from the Bitcoin industry that maybe can help with some of the software to orchestrate all this? And how do we build, as my fund is called, a hive mind, an internet of electricity, an internet of energy, similar to what we have is now an internet of information with the traditional internet, an internet of value, which is what we have with Bitcoin. How do we tie in the internet protocol for electricity? And that's the goal. So we're going to get a bunch of people together like yourself. If you're listening to this and you're excited, we have an application up on type1summit.org. So.
Sweet, man.
Yeah.
Let's do it.
Let's do it. Solar Pirates. Let's fucking go.
Let's go.